As night gently settles and the final movements of the day dissolve into silence, our minds often become their loudest. Thoughts that have yet to be named, emotions that have not found their place, the questions about the meaning of life we keep avoiding, all of them suddenly gather into weary currents flowing through the soul. In the modern world, where we are expected to stay strong, alert, and rational, we often forget that we, too, need a quiet space to breathe, to listen again to the echoes rising from deep within. And tonight, you no longer need to brace yourself to understand or confront everything. Let me guide you into something softer, a gentle journey through 10 mysteries of consciousness that still remain unexplained, told in a slow, deep, warm rhythm, like a breath that is gradually calming. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." In this moment, you don't need to be fully awake. You only need to let your mind open, soft enough, loose enough, so that these philosophical reflections can guide you inward, touch the quiet places within you, and slowly carry you towards sleep. As we slowly step into the first part of tonight's journey, let your mind soften just a little, like a surface of water that has only just stilled after a long day. Perhaps you too have felt at times that your life is shaped by the smallest of moments. Choices that seem insignificant, a passing nod, footsteps that feel unimportant. And yet, it is often the tiniest things that lead to the greatest changes. The way a butterfly's wing brushing the air on one side of the world can, in some mysterious way, become a storm on the other. Sitting here in the quiet of night, looking back at your life, you may realize how fragile everything has always been, how just one different choice, one altered sentence, one slower minute or one hurried second, and the future before you now might never have existed. That idea is both beautiful and frightening, tender and unsettling, like the way time slips through our hands without a sound, without a warning. And that is the essence of the butterfly effect, the absolute fragility of time and fate. Edward Lorenz, the mathematician who introduced this idea, discovered by accident that even the smallest change in the initial data of a climate model could lead to a completely different prediction. It wasn't merely a lesson in science, it was a metaphor for life. We live in a world where even the smallest details can become turning points. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote in "Thus spoke Zarathustra," "All truly great thoughts are conceived by walking." Because sometimes, just a single different step is enough to open a different path, a different life, a different version of who we might become. In the stillness of this night, try to look back at the tiny points that led you to this exact moment. An accidental encounter, a decision that seemed impulsive at the time, a sentence spoken by a stranger, a moment when you chose to go straight instead of turning right. Your life has been woven from threads as delicate as these, and when you look through slower, gentler eyes, you'll see that each of them carries its own quiet beauty, like an intricate web through which time connects human beings with their destinies. And if the smallest shifts in an ordinary life can create such immense ripples, then through the flow of time, if someone were to travel back into the past, even the slightest action might damage the future entirely. Stories about time travel always leave us in a half-dreaming state, because they brush against a deep, primal fear within us, the fear that we never truly hold full control over our fate. A single moved grain of dust can shift an entire future. A meeting that never happened might mean a love that never began. An accident that didn't occur could send a life in a different direction. Beyond science, The butterfly effect is a gentle reminder that our present moment is a fragile product of countless moments that once touched one another, and because of that, it becomes a philosophical lesson in presence. When we recognize that each second, each minute could become a turning point, we begin to live more slowly, not out of fear, but out of the understanding that even the smallest things carry meaning. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. A butterfly can alter the weather across the world, and a single small thought can transform the entire landscape of our inner life." In this narration, in this night, we return to a gentle truth. We cannot control the storms, but we can control the butterfly. Meaning, we can begin with the tiniest of things, a slower breath, a kinder choice, a brighter thought. And these small motions will quietly soften the texture of our days, like a breeze touching still water. Yet the butterfly effect is not only about the possibility of causing change, it also reveals the fragility of what we call fate. Time is not a stable flow. It is an invisible network where every action creates a new branch. Science calls it chaos theory, but the soul calls it the wonder of existence. Imagine something simple. If someone in your past had not smiled at you on a certain day, would you still be who you are now? If you hadn't found the first book that changed you, would you still be chasing the passion you have today? If you hadn't endured that particular wound, would you be the calm, quiet person you've become? Life isn't a chain of random events. It is a collection of delicate vibrations, and each vibration leaves a trace. When we understand this, we suddenly feel lighter. We no longer need to tense up trying to hold everything in place, because we finally see that destiny is woven from butterflies, not storms. And in that fragility lies beauty. We need only change something very small within ourselves, and the future may already grow gentler. Tonight, as you let yourself sink into this voice, feel that your consciousness moves like time itself, full of branches, full of possibilities, full of butterflies in flight. Each breath is a new beginning. Each thought is a speck of dust forming a tiny universe. And as we continue this journey, stepping into the next part, we will begin to see more clearly that the fragility of time is only one among countless mysteries held within the human mind. So let your eyes soften, let your heartbeat settle, and let your thoughts drift more slowly. For from the fragility of time, we will walk into other paradoxes of consciousness, where chaos, uncertainty, and ambiguity become the very materials that help us understand ourselves more deeply. And that will be the doorway leading us into part 2, where chaos theory reveals more of its secrets about the ever-changing, ever-shifting landscape of the human mind. As the echoes of the butterfly effect from part 1 continue to drift softly through your mind like a thin breeze gliding over a still lake, we begin to sense something deeper, that it is not only small changes that hold the power to alter fate, but that the very nature of this world and the very nature of the human mind are woven from chaos itself. From here, we step slowly into part 2, where chaos theory invites us to look at the world with different eyes that understand uncertainty not as an enemy, but as the foundation of all creation. The most fascinating aspect of chaos theory is not the disorder it reveals, but the quiet beauty hidden within that disorder, a beauty we can only hear when we slow down enough to listen. On the scientific level, chaos theory shows us that in complex systems like weather, history, economics, and even the unfolding of a human life, small disturbances not only lead to immense outcomes, but also make the results entirely unpredictable. Yet on a philosophical level, chaos theory becomes a profound reminder that life never follows the script we prepare. And perhaps it is exactly this that makes the journey of living so vast, so mysterious. The philosopher Alan Watts once wrote in The Wisdom of Insecurity, "The only thing that is ultimately real about your journey is the step that you are taking at this moment." A simple sentence, yet strangely aligned with the spirit of chaos theory. That we never truly live inside certainty. We live only in the moment unfolding now, shaped by countless forces we cannot see. Chaos is not the shattering of order. Chaos is order in its deepest form, a form the human mind is simply too small to grasp in full. When we observe our own lives, we often see that the greatest changes arise from causes no one expected. A chance encounter, a small choice, a moment of unconscious impulse. But there are also changes that do not come from choice at all. They arise from the inherent chaos of the world itself. A sudden rainstorm that shifts your path, a societal upheaval that overturns your life, an illness appearing like an exclamation mark in the middle of your story. Life does not move in straight lines. It moves in spirals, non-linear paths, unpredictable curves. Just as the weather cannot be forecast accurately after 10 days, a human life cannot be forecast 10 years ahead. If the butterfly effect in part 1 revealed how tiny actions can shape enormous consequences, then chaos theory in part 2 shows us that even without butterflies, the world still unfolds through unpredictable motion. And this is precisely what makes the theory healing. It gently places a hand on your shoulder and whispers that not everything is your fault, not every shift in your life comes from a right or wrong choice, and not every deviation needs to be fixed. Many things simply belong to the chaotic nature of the universe. When we understand this, we soften toward ourselves. Nietzsche, in The Gay Science, once wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." That line, echoing in the night, makes us realize that chaos is not something to fear. Chaos is illumination, the raw material of creation, the ground from which the most beautiful things within us are born. Without chaos, there is no transformation. Without uncertainty, there is no freedom. And without the unexpected turns of life, we would never discover the deeper layers of who we are. When contemplating chaos theory, we might imagine life as a gentle whirlwind, paradoxical yet remarkably true. These winds carry us into experiences we did not consciously choose, but which guide us to where we are meant to be. Like a river shifting course as it flows past stones, so too does life shift its direction, not to trouble us, but to reveal roots we never dared imagine. Chaos can frighten us, yet beneath that fear lies a soft truth. Life has no obligation to be predictable. It only has the obligation to be lived. And so do we. When we understand that the world is inherently uncertain, we learn how to let go, how to smile gently at what we cannot control, and how to keep moving even without seeing the whole path. Marcus Aurelius once murmured in Meditations, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." A simple line, yet filled with the wisdom of those who gazed into the chaos of existence and remained steadfast. We cannot control what lies outside our will, but we can choose how to reconcile with it and how to love the people and events that fall into our lives, whether through chance or chaos. There are moments in your life you thought you were steering, but later you realized you were simply drifting along a larger current. And strangely, that current seemed to know where you needed to go long before you did. On this level, chaos theory becomes more than a theory. It becomes a comfort, because if the world is inherently chaotic, then feeling lost sometimes is completely natural. If the weather shifts because a single molecule moved differently, then you too can shift because of a single small thought. A human is a complex system, no less complex than weather or history. And that complexity makes you unpredictable, even to yourself. Perhaps you've been surprised by your own decisions, or by a sudden emotion rising out of nowhere. That is not weakness. That is the sign of a living, breathing consciousness. When you let your mind drift into the slow rhythms of the night, you'll see that your inner chaos is not a storm. It is the soft rustling of leaves in the vast forest of your soul. It is simply data rearranging itself, psychological branches seeking new connections, memories shifting like grains of sand with each breath. Chaos. Theory gives you the right to be imperfect, the right to change, the right to make mistakes, the right to begin again, because everything alive oscillates, fluctuates, transforms. And within this uncertainty, life finds its beauty. Once you begin to sense that beauty, you'll see that everything happening, even the things you never wished for, is quietly shaping a more refined, more profound version of you. And then, as you rest within that understanding, your heart begins to soften. The need to control, to hold tightly, to fear the future, all of it dissolves into the dark like smoke drifting into night. You begin to touch true stillness, the stillness that comes from knowing that chaos is part of a deeper order we are not yet large enough to perceive. From the fragility of time in Part 1 to the unpredictability of the world in Part 2, tonight's journey carries you further into the unexplainable mysteries of consciousness. And as your breath evens out, as your eyelids grow heavier, we will gently transition into Part 3, where the paradoxes of memory and perception reveal even deeper secrets about the human mind. Let yourself drift with this current, slowly, softly, as though listening to the quiet heartbeat of your own soul. And as the reflections on chaos and uncertainty from Part 2 continue to linger within you like a thin wave that has not yet dissolved, you begin to realize that there is something even stranger than chaos theory itself. The way we understand, or rather, fail to understand, time. From the branching unpredictability of chaos, we now step into a realm even softer, thinner, more fragile, where time is no longer a linear flow as we once believed, but a shattered mirror reflecting countless intertwined possibilities. This is Part 3, where the paradoxes of time travel open before us, like doors leading into the deepest mysteries of existence. What makes time travel so captivating is not the fantasy of fixing the past or glimpsing the future, but the way it forces us to confront a boundary the human mind is never comfortable facing. Time is not simple. It is not merely a river. It might be a loop, a branch, a web of infinite paths that never converge. The moment we imagine going back to the past to change even the smallest detail, we immediately touch what philosophy calls the fundamental paradox, the conflict between personal will and the structure of reality. If you went back and changed something, would you still be you? Would the new future still contain the person who traveled back? Or would you become another branch entirely, another version of yourself whose memories and fate no longer align with the original? These questions seem distant, abstract. Yet on nights like this, when the mind slows enough to see its own architecture, we recognize that even in our present lives, we are always living as though traveling through countless timelines. Every choice is a branch. Every hesitation is an unformed timeline. Every regret is a future we never entered. One of the most famous time travel paradoxes, the grandfather paradox, asks, if you went back and accidentally prevented your grandfather from having children, how could you exist to go back in the first place? The paradox is simple, yet beautiful in its own way. It reminds us that time does not obey the personal desires of any one individual, and that tampering with the past opens a foggy region the brain cannot fully process. But even if physical time travel is impossible, the mind engages in its own form of time travel every day. Through memory, through reflection, through longing, through the what-ifs we whisper to ourselves in the dark. C.S. Lewis once wrote in A Grief Observed, "For in grief nothing stays put." One keeps on emerging from a phase, but it always recurs. That sentence, in its quiet way, describes perfectly how the mind revisits the past, not to change it, but to rearrange it, to reconcile with what once was. The mind is a time machine, but one that travels backward through memory and forward through imagination. Yet here lies the paradox. Memory is never fixed, and the future is never settled. Each time we remember, we alter the past a little. Each time we imagine, we generate new timelines in our mind. Time paradoxes do not belong only to science fiction. They exist inside our emotional lives. When we revisit a memory too many times, we are interfering with the timeline by rewriting how it feels. When we fear the future, we generate countless imaginary timelines long before any of them become real. Another paradox, the bootstrap paradox, asks what happens if an object or idea has no origin. For example, if you travel to the past and give a scientist a book, and he writes his masterpiece using that book, then where did the book come from? It has no author, no beginning. It exists in an endless loop. And when we think deeply, do we not carry small bootstrap paradoxes within our own minds? Thoughts that appear from nowhere. Emotions without clear origins. Intuitions that feel as if they arrived from another version of ourselves. Human beings often experience sudden clarity, sudden shift, sudden understanding that has no logical point of emergence. As if receiving a message from an unseen timeline. Time is not linear, no matter how we behave as though it is. Time is a network, a layering, a series of loops made of memory, subconscious processes, light and forgetting. Albert Einstein once said, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." Within the context of time paradoxes, that quote becomes a nighttime whisper, reminding us that everything we assume is fixed is, in truth, fluid. We think the past is closed, but memory rewrites it every day. We think the future hasn't arrived, but fear and hope mold it continuously. We think the present is the only real point, but the present is merely the meeting place of two invisible currents. Then it dissolves. Understanding this makes us lighter. We begin to see that tormenting ourselves over the past or worrying endlessly about the future is simply throwing ourselves into paradoxes the mind is not designed to solve. Some time travel stories speak of branching timelines, where every choice creates a new universe. In quantum physics, this appears as the many worlds interpretation. Every decision births another world, another you. It sounds far away, but psychologically, it is deeply close. Because every choice you make in life has created another version of you, a version you once were, or a version you never became. And your inner world is the map of all those selves. Tonight, in this stillness, you may feel as though you stand at the intersection of many timelines, being at once everything you have ever been and everything you still might become. We cannot travel through time physically, but we travel through it mentally every day, and these travels give life its emotional depth. Time paradoxes do not exist to frighten us. They exist to show us that time is deeper, softer, and more expansive than our ordinary perception allows. As we pass through the layers of these paradoxes, Time begins to feel like a great lake, each memory a ripple, each hope a reflection of moonlight, each present moment the meeting point of these shifting waters. And when you step out of Part 3, you may realize that to understand time is to understand the mind, and to understand the mind is to begin understanding yourself. From Part 2, where chaos unsettled our sense of order, to Part 3, where time became a labyrinth, tonight's journey is guiding you into the deepest chambers of consciousness. And from these paradoxes of time, we will gently enter Part 4, where cause and effect no longer move in the familiar order, and where the mysteries of reverse causality unfold in the tender quiet of the night. Let your mind drift with this current, slowly, softly, as though traveling through the delicate shimmer of time within your own being. And as the ideas of branching timelines and mysterious loops from Part 3 continue drifting within you like thin layers of mist not yet lifted, we enter a realm even stranger. If the paradoxes of time travel made you question whether the past can be changed, then the paradox of reverse causality. The reverse causality paradox asks something far deeper. What happens if the cause does not come before the effect, but arrives after it? What happens if the future can reach into the present, and the present can be shaped by what has not yet occurred? This is the moment when time begins to crack open before your eyes, revealing something the mind has long suspected but never dared to name. That the structure of reality may not be as linear as our brains wish it to be. In science fiction tales, reverse causality is often portrayed with enchanting images. An email sent from the future, a phone call from a version of yourself you have not yet lived to become, a piece of information with no origin, a self-created loop feeding and sustaining itself. And strangely, though such ideas sound fantastical, this paradox reflects far more of the human psyche than we might expect. We often think in straight lines, every action with a clear cause, every emotion with a trigger we can trace. Yet deep within consciousness, the effect sometimes arrives before the cause. We feel anxious before we know why. We fall in love before we understand the reason. We fear something before it happens. And sometimes, we know something as if it has already occurred, even when it belongs to a distant future. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how, but if you reverse the thought, a quiet paradox emerges. Sometimes it is the how, the way we live, the feelings we carry, the movements of the unconscious, that creates the why, as if meaning is born after the action, not before it." This brings us to the heart of reverse causality, the possibility that an effect can become the cause of itself. A circle with no beginning, like the boundary of a clock that never stops turning. Imagine this. You wake one morning with an inexplicable sadness. Nothing is wrong. The bed is familiar, the room unchanged, the breath steady. And yet the emotion appeared before any narrative could explain it. Then later in the day, something happens. A difficult conversation, unwelcome news, an old memory rising up. And suddenly, you turn back to the morning and say, so that's why. But what if that morning's emotion was not the effect of the afternoon event, but its signal? What if your mind, in a soft and secret way, sensed the footsteps of the future before your reasoning could name them? No mysticism is needed here, only modern research into the unconscious. Many studies suggest that humans can anticipate random events milliseconds before they occur, as if the body knows before the mind. The relationship between emotion and time does not always follow the order we were taught. This idea echoes a famous paradox in physics. information traveling backward in time at the quantum level. Tiny particles, the building blocks of the universe, can influence one another in ways that defy before and after. If the universe operates through such impossible loops, perhaps the human mind, made from those same particles, also carries similar loops within it. And in the quiet of night, when you let yourself breathe slowly in darkness, you may sense this more clearly. There are worries you cannot trace, intuitions as soft as grass shifting in the breeze, choices you make before understanding why you made them. These feel like whispers from the future, not to warn you, but to share the natural rhythm of life. That time, perhaps, is a circle, not a line. Sometimes an event in your life is the result of an emotion you had earlier, not the other way around. A sharp ache may drive you to walk away, and only afterward do you understand why the ache was there. A vague instinct steers you from a path, and only later do you learn what it saved you from. The human mind seems to live inside a small version of reverse causality, where emotions and meanings do not follow order, but wrap around each other like ripples in a still pond. Albert Camus once wrote in notebooks, "Live to the point of tears." And when a sentence like that echoes through the night, we realize that some moments are so profound they can only be felt, not analyzed. And sometimes those very moments become the cause of who we are, long before we understand the transformation they set in motion. From a philosophical view, the reverse causality paradox is not merely a story of science. It is a story of the soul. It reminds us that parts of us do not live according to linear time. Some wounds arrive after we have already been hurt. Some healing appears before we even know we needed it. Some joys surface simply because they exist, without any cause at all. When we understand this, life becomes softer. We stop forcing ourselves to trace every feeling to its origin. We stop digging through memory to find the precise beginning of every ache. We allow things to be what they are, because perhaps what they are already holds more truth than any linear explanation could offer. And as your mind drifts with this voice, you begin to sense something gentle. Not everything needs to follow order. Not every emotion needs a reason. Not every experience requires a cause. Some things come simply to create you, and your only task is to listen. From the fragility of time in Part 1, to the uncertainty of the world in Part 2, to the swirling labyrinths of time in Part 3, and now the reversal of cause and effect in Part 4. Tonight's journey is guiding you deeper into the hidden layers of consciousness. And as your breath slows, as your mind settles like water in a quiet lake, we will enter Part 5. Where origin-less loops of information and self-born thoughts reveal even more tender mysteries of the mind. But before we go on, let yourself drift a little further, right into the place where time may flow from the future into the present, like the soft whisper of something approaching. And as the reflections on the reverse causality paradox from Part 4 settle quietly inside you like the faint echo of something arriving from the future, we gently step into another hidden chamber of the mind, a place where cause and effect are not only reversed, but sometimes do not exist at all. If Part 4 asked whether an effect can precede its cause, then Part 5 takes us even deeper. What happens when neither the cause nor the effect has a beginning? What happens when an idea, an object, a memory, or even a moment of awareness appears in your life with no clear origin, as though it has generated itself from the very loop it belongs to? This is the realm of information. Loops in origin-less objects, where sender and receiver are the same, where an object or a piece of knowledge exists without an initial spark, and where the fabric of reality begins to dissolve away from ordinary rules. In science fiction, the bootstrap paradox, the paradox of the self-created, illustrates this beautifully. A traveler goes back in time with a book written by a famous scientist. He hands it to the scientist, who then copies it word for word and publishes it. But if the book was simply passed through the loop without anyone writing it from scratch, who is the real author? The answer is no one. The book has no beginning. It exists as a self-sustaining circle. In physics, such an object is called an origin-less object. In philosophy, it becomes a gentle reminder of the limits of human understanding. But if you look closely into your psychological life, you'll realize that we encounter these origin-less loops far more often than we think. A thought appears in your mind that no one taught you. An intuition has no traceable source. A feeling of familiarity arises when you meet someone for the first time. A melody feels like something you've known for lifetimes. A sadness arrives without a story. A question forms in your mind, though no one has asked it aloud. Where do these come from? There is no beginning. They simply appear. And when we let the mind drift slowly enough, we see that there are loops in our lives we never realized we were part of. Someone once hurt you. You carried that wound for years. One day, without noticing, you repeated the same gesture towards someone else. A harsh sentence spoken to you in childhood becomes the whispering voice in your head at night. A fear you thought was uniquely yours was handed down through generations like an invisible replica. These loops, though not born from time travel, behave like bootstrap paradoxes. Things without beginnings that still shape us, move us, define us. Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious, psychological structures that no one created, yet all of us carry. In The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, he wrote, "There are things in the psyche which I do not produce, but which produce themselves and have their own life. If the loops inside us can exist and self-generate, perhaps the bootstrap paradox is not fiction at all. Perhaps it is human. There are things you believe that no one taught you, things you know that no voice ever told you, things you fear that no event caused. These loops produce themselves. They are origin-less objects living inside consciousness, and when you look deeply into yourself, you begin to see them glimmering in delicate layers, a loneliness with no beginning, a dream that was never planted, a quiet tenderness towards someone you barely know. Strangely, the mind is made of countless such loops, a network where not everything has a source, and not every belief has an author. Understanding this makes us gentler toward the unexplainable parts of our own lives. We no longer need to hunt for the reason behind every ache. We no longer need to excavate memory to find the exact starting point of every emotion. We let things be because perhaps being is already more logical than any explanation. Reality does not operate by the logic we were taught. It flows in invisible rhythms that the mind can only touch through sensation, intuition, dreams. Listening to this voice in the night, you may feel that parts of your consciousness also exist like objects without origins. Like a song you don't remember learning, like a memory that may not be yours, repeated too many times by others. Like a feeling of belonging even in a place you've never been. These things don't need an origin to be true. They only need to be felt. And perhaps, as Part 4 whispered, some emotions arrive before you know the reason. But in Part 5, we learn something softer still. Not everything needs a reason. Not every story needs a beginning. Some loops exist for their own sake, and we are simply the ones tracing the curve as they pass through us. Some say the past shapes the present. Others say the future pulls the present toward itself. But standing in the quiet center of Part 5, you see something beautiful. Some things simply are, free from the chains of time, like the water flowing in a stream, like wind brushing across a roof, like the peace blooming inside you now. And when you touch a truth this soft, you realize that the deepest nature of existence is not cause, but continuation, not a beginning, but a circle, not a destination, but what is unfolding. From Part 1 to Part 5, tonight's journey has taken you through paradoxes of time, memory, causality, and the very architecture of consciousness. And now, as your thoughts drift like calm, moving water, we prepare to enter Part 6, where the human psyche reveals another kind of loop, one not born of time or information, but of behavior, the way we unconsciously mirror one another, like reflections repeating across a corridor of darkened mirrors. But before stepping into Part 6, let your breath slow just a little more, so you can feel this gentle loop, the loop of being itself, quietly holding you. And as the self-generating loops of Part 5 continue to resonate within you like a sound without a beginning or an end, you begin to sense another gentle truth unfolding. Not only can information replicate itself without an origin, but human beings too reflect one another in ways so subtle and unconscious that it feels as though we are all mirrors facing each other in a quiet room. From origin-less loops, we step into a world where every person not only influences, but is influenced. Where every emotion is not only felt, but echoed. Where human behavior moves like soft waves, touching and shifting one another before flowing on. This is the realm of behavioral mirroring. The mirror effect, a phenomenon belonging not only to psychology, but to the deepest form of connection between souls trying to understand one another. What is fascinating about mirroring is that it is not truly a technique. It can be taught, learned, applied in communication, persuasion, attraction, or rapport building. But at its core, mirroring is something we have done since long before language existed. A newborn mirrors its mother's expression. Lovers mirror each other's breathing as they sleep. Close friends unconsciously adopt similar gestures, phrases, even rhythms of laughter. And two people understand each other most deeply, not through conscious skill, but through the resonance of their inner worlds. Scientifically, mirroring is explained through mirror neurons, cells that activate when we witness someone else's action, as if we ourselves were performing it. This creates a strange synchrony between observer and observed soul, an invisible bond, refined and intimate, making humans the most empathic of all known creatures. But in philosophy, mirroring becomes a soft whisper, reminding us that human beings have always searched for harmony. We mirror one another, not merely to gain approval, but to survive, to feel accompanied, to know we are not alone. Henry David Thoreau wrote in Walden, "Could a greater miracle take place than for us to look through each other's eyes for an instant? When this sentence returns in the stillness of night, we feel its truth. Mirroring is the simplest and most natural way for us to see the world through someone else's eyes, even for a moment. We lean as they lean. We smile when they smile. We slow down when their heart is heavy. We open when they feel safe. And when we look closer, we see that mirroring is not only of outward behavior, but of the inner landscape. When we sit beside a calm person, we grow calmer. When we sit beside an anxious person, our bodies tighten before our minds even understand why. When we sit beside someone whose eyes carry hope, something bright begins to expand quietly in our chest. This is not logic. This is the spirituality of science, the transmission of emotional energy without a single word. And the most beautiful thing about mirroring is that it is rarely intentional. It happens because the human mind is always listening to the rhythm of another mind, even in silence. Two hearts sleeping near each other may fall into the same beat. Two friends sitting quietly can still feel deeply understood. Two strangers shift their posture at the same instant, as if seeing themselves reflected in the other. Yet mirroring also opens a more philosophical question about identity. If we unconsciously reflect one another, where is the true boundary between me and you? Is our personality, at least in part, shaped by those we have spent time with? Are the fragments we think of as self actually countless reflections, pieces of others we have absorbed, echoes of emotions we once witnessed, tiny imprints of hearts that once beat near ours? Look closely, and you will notice traces of your parents in the way you move your hands, traces of your dearest friend in the way you laugh, traces of someone you once loved in your gaze, traces of brief encounters in the way you think. These are behavioral loops. Not origin, less like the bootstrap paradox, but loops with origins clear and human. Humans create humans, not through biology alone, but through emotional reflection. Realizing this softens us, because we begin to understand that every small act we offer to another person may become a seed in their heart, blooming one day where we will never see it. A gentle gesture may become their gentle gesture to someone else. A kind look may become the look they give to someone in pain. A healing sentence may become the words they whisper to themselves in a dark night. Mirroring is the bridge between human beings, the light between two minds, the way we make the world softer simply by being present with sincerity. And in the deep quiet of this night, we also understand something else. We do not only mirror others, we mirror ourselves. When we treat someone kindly, we are reflecting our own inner kindness. When we try to listen, we are listening to the fragile parts within us. When we slow down to match someone's rhythm, we are slowing down enough to feel our own breath again. And perhaps that is why mirroring heals, because it dissolves the rigid boundary between me and the world, showing us that we are never separate. Nietzsche once wrote in "Thus Spoke Zarathustra," "Invisible threads are the strongest ties. Those invisible threads, they are mirroring. When you sit quietly beside someone, your breathing falls in sync. When you listen, your heart softens. When you smile, they smile, not by choice, but by resonance." This is not manipulation. This is the natural architecture of connection. Behavioral mirroring reminds us that the deepest truths of life often arise not from words, but from movements too subtle to name. That presence can be as light as breath, yet spread as far as moonlight on water. And now, as your breath slows further, as your body softens against the place where you are lying, as your mind opens like a peaceful doorway in the nighttime quiet, we continue onward. From part 5, where information can exist without a beginning, to part 6, where humans reflect one another like small mirrors of the universe. The journey is guiding you into the most tender chambers of consciousness. And from this space of reflection, we move next into part 7, where another deeply human psychological phenomenon opens. What happens when a small request has the power to shift the way we see ourselves in the world? But before stepping into the next part, let your eyes close just a bit more. Your breath fall into rhythm with the darkness, and let your own heart reflect the peace spreading gently through this quiet space. And as the resonance of part 6 continues to move slowly within you, where we wandered through invisible layers of human reflection, as though each person were a dim mirror held up to the soul of another, you may feel yourself being guided almost effortlessly, toward another psychological paradox. Not the paradox of reflection, but of movement. Not what we unconsciously repeat, but what we unconsciously step into. Because many of the transformations in a human life do not come from explosions or dramatic turning points, but from something lighter, subtler, a small step we barely notice, yet one that quietly opens the path for much larger steps to follow. From the gentle mirroring of Part 6, we drift into Part 7 like one stream merging into the next, arriving at a phenomenon psychology calls the foot in the door effect. A strategy of persuasion, yes, but more deeply, a psychological law of how humans change. Always from the smallest opening. On the surface, foot in the door is simple. You persuade someone to agree to a big request by first asking them for a small one. Someone who wants your support for a cause might start by asking for your signature. A salesperson who hopes you'll buy an expensive product may begin by offering a free sample. A child who wants something big will often start with a very innocent request. And strangely, most of us fall into this pattern even when we know it's a strategy. But when we look deeper, beyond persuasion, beyond manipulation, we see that foot in the door is not really a technique. It is the soft architecture of the human mind. We change gradually, step by step, like expanding ripples on a still lake. What makes this effect so powerful is not the small request itself, but the commitment it creates. Once a person has made a small commitment, however trivial, they naturally want to remain consistent with that commitment. Psychology calls this the principle of consistency. When we say yes once, we are more likely to say yes again, not because we are pressured, but because we want to remain aligned with our self-image. We want to feel coherent. We want to believe that we are steady, reliable, and true to what we have chosen. And this is why a small request opens the door to a large one. Not because someone has persuaded us, but because we are persuading ourselves. On a philosophical level, foot in the door becomes a tender metaphor for how people enter one another's lives. We never love someone instantly. We never trust someone instantly. No one can open your heart in a single moment. Hearts, like old wooden doors, open through small, delicate clicks. A kind question, a warm gaze, a quiet nod, a presence that does not force itself. And from those tiny movements, something much larger can step in. Albert Camus wrote in The Fall, "You know what charm is? A way of getting the answer, yes, without having asked any clear question." When that line echoes through the night, we understand something soft and human. What moves us is never the grand request. It is the subtle shift beneath the surface. And foot in the door is only the deliberate imitation of a natural rule. Every opening of the heart begins with a very small crack of light. In our inner world, this effect runs even deeper. You cannot heal yourself in a day. You cannot dissolve a fear in an afternoon. You cannot walk out of heartbreak in a single decision. But you can begin with a tiny act, allowing yourself to cry, allowing yourself silence, allowing yourself to let go just a little, allowing yourself to say, "I'm tired." These small permissions open the door for larger ones, allowing yourself to recover, allowing yourself to live differently, allowing yourself to be happy. We often believe that great changes require grand events, but psychology tells us the opposite. The most permanent transformations come from the softest shifts. Nietzsche, in Human, All Too Human, once wrote, "The little things are infinitely the most important." And most of the profound changes in your life, success, collapse, growth, heartbreak, rebirth, began with something so small you didn't even notice it when it happened. You agree to something tiny, and your entire path turns. You try something tiny, and you discover a part of yourself you never knew existed. You take a tiny step and find yourself somewhere unrecognizably new. This is why foot in the door is not merely an art of persuasion, but an art of living, the way we shift ourselves from within. And if you look even deeper, you may realize that life itself uses foot in the door on you. It never transforms you with a single strike. It begins with tiny, nearly invisible invitations. One unusual moment of fatigue. One morning when you wake and no longer love what you once adored. One conversation that stays with you all day. One smile from a stranger who disappears forever. And then one day, you look back and realize how far you've traveled, all from the quietest beginnings. And in the space between people, the mirroring of part 6 and the foot in the door of part 7 intertwine like two branches of the same river. Someone mirrors you, making you feel safe. And from that safety, a small request emerges, opening a door. And from that door, something larger enters, not because they convinced you, but because you had already cracked the door open yourself. This helps us understand not only how influence works, but how connection is formed. A lasting bond is never built from grand declarations. It is composed of small things. Are you okay? A nighttime message, a gentle touch on the hand, a steady presence on days when neither of you has anything to say. Those small things, over time, create a space wide enough for trust, for belonging, for the full weight of the heart to step inside. Foot in the door teaches us that humans do not change all at once. But it also reminds us that any change, no matter how large, can begin right now with something small enough not to frighten us. Slow down. Breathe a little deeper. Rest for one more minute. Speak one kind sentence to yourself. These are the first footprints you leave on the threshold of your own door. And from them, an entire journey of healing can unfold. Not loud, not forceful, but soft as your breath in this quiet moment. And as you let yourself melt into this gentle flow, we will continue onward to part 8, where a phenomenon opposite to foot in the door appears. When a large request is used to make a small request feel easy. But that is a story for a moment later. For now, let your mind rest in the gentle awareness that every transformation, no matter how vast, begins with a small knock on the door of your heart. And as the quiet resonance of part 7 continues to drift within you like a thin veil of mist, where we explored how the smallest footsteps can open the widest doors, you begin to sense another rhythm moving through the psychology of being human. A rhythm not of reflection, as in part 6, nor of gentle progression, as in part 7, but of contrast. Because human psychology does not rely on a single direction. It breathes through opposites, through soft paradoxes that unfold side by side. If the foot in the door principle is the delicate knock that eases its way into the heart, then door in the face is the loud, overwhelming knock, the one too large to accept, that paradoxically opens the way for something smaller, kinder, and far easier to welcome. Two opposite techniques, yet both built upon the same truth of human nature. We respond emotionally before logic has time to speak. And so, moving from part 7 to part 8 feels like stepping from a shaded alcove into a sudden burst of light, surprising, but still carried by the slow, meditative flow of this nighttime journey. Door in the face works by presenting a request so large, you are almost certain to refuse it. And it is precisely that refusal, the closing of the large door, that makes you more willing to open the smaller one presented immediately after. Because when the second request stands beside the first, it suddenly feels reasonable, gentle, light. You agree not out of manipulation, but because human beings naturally respond to lowered expectations with goodwill. It is the psychology of contrast, of relief, of softness rising after pressure has been lifted. Yet beneath the surface of persuasion, door in the face reveals something far deeper about how we perceive the world. Sometimes it is the shock that creates space for the gentle. We refuse the immense, and then we embrace the small. We cannot carry the sky, but we can hold a single cloud. Look into your own life. How many times has life thrown at you a challenge too heavy to bear, forcing you to shut the door completely, only for something smaller, quieter, more manageable to arrive afterward, which you welcomed because it felt like a kind alternative? Sometimes the too much exhausts us. It makes us retreat, guard ourselves, step back. And yet from that very withdrawal, we find clarity. We learn what is beyond our limit and what we can accept. The large request forces the no. The smaller request allows the yes. Psychologically, this dance is called reciprocal concessions. When someone steps back, we instinctively step forward. But spiritually, it feels like a rhythm of the human heart. When someone reduces their demand, we soften. When someone eases their intensity, we open. When someone stops pushing, we begin to offer. And from a philosophical perspective, the paradox becomes even more beautiful. It shows us that humans do not operate by rigid reason, but by balance, by felt sense, by reciprocal gentleness. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star, and sometimes it is precisely because of this inner chaos that we recoil from overwhelming demands, only to give rise to a smaller, more radiant acceptance. Meaning, sometimes we need to encounter the impossible in order to recognize the possible." If part 7 was about how we step into things unconsciously through very small openings, then part 8 is about how we accept the middle ground after first encountering the impossible. Like how a great storm makes us cherish the calm, how a heavy word makes us appreciate a gentle one, how a deep disappointment sharpens our sensitivity to small joys. And strangely enough, our psychology follows this exact pattern. Someone asks too much, we refuse. They ask something smaller, and we find ourselves saying yes, not because we have been coerced, but because the contrast feels like a breath of air. It is the sensation of walking from a suffocating room into one with quiet, soft light, not blinding brightness, just enough illumination for comfort. This is how the second request becomes acceptable, not for its merit alone, but for its relief, its softness, its alignment with what we can realistically hold. And if we look deeper within, we see an even more human truth. Life itself sometimes uses door in the face as a way of helping us grow. It introduces a challenge too great, so we learn the strength of refusal. Then it introduces a smaller challenge, so we learn the art of receiving. Life teaches us not only how to open, but how to close. And through those two opposite movements, we become more grounded, more mature, more aware of our own boundaries. In relationships, door in the face is also a quiet unfolding. Some people enter our lives asking too much, too fast, too soon, too heavily. We pull away, we close, but then someone else arrives with gentleness just right, not overwhelming, not demanding, simply present, and we open. Not because we weaken, but because human hearts instinctively know the right degree of closeness. Rainer Maria Rilke once wrote in Letters to a Young Poet, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final." This applies to door in the face as well. When we are confronted with something beyond our capacity, we need not treat it as fate. We can say no, and afterward we can still say yes to something smaller, truer, lighter. No feeling is the last one. No request defines us. No shock is destiny. In the stillness of this night, as you let these gentle reflections drift around you, you begin to see foot in the door, part 7, and door in the face, part 8, as the two breaths of life. One inhaling, one exhaling, one opening, one guarding, one step forward, one step back. And through that rhythm, we learn to live between the expectations of the world without losing ourselves. And now, as your breath settles even more gently and your mind flows like a slow river through these philosophical layers of human behavior, we begin to turn toward part 9, where a familiar cognitive bias reveals how the mind seeks only what confirms what it already believes. But before stepping forward, allow yourself a small rest in the night. A moment to understand that sometimes the enormous appears only so that you may discover the right-sized truth meant for you. And as the echo of part 8 continues to drift slowly through your mind, like the soft sound of a door closing after a request too heavy to hold, you begin to sense that tonight's journey is carrying you deeper into the quiet structure of the human self. From techniques of influence rooted in behavior, we now shift into the silent world of perception, where what we believe is not always shaped by truth, but by the truth we want to see. Moving from part 8 to part 9 feels like stepping out of a room full of motion into a hushed chamber where the light softens and everything grows still enough for you to observe the inner workings of your own mind. And there, one of the most powerful illusions of human cognition reveals itself: confirmation bias. The tendency of the mind to seek and believe only what reinforces its existing beliefs, while quietly rejecting whatever challenges them. Confirmation bias is not a flaw. It is the mind's attempt to protect us from overwhelm. Human beings cannot absorb all information at once, so the mind chooses what is familiar, what is safe, what allows us to feel that we still hold the thread of our story. Yet this very protection becomes a cage. We stop seeking truth. We seek reassurance. We stop gathering evidence. We gather echoes. We stop seeing the world as it is. We see the world as we want it to be. And it is exactly this subtle distortion that creates one of the deepest psychological paradoxes. We believe we are thinking clearly, even as most of what we believe is only a closed loop of our own perceptions. We unconsciously ignore contradictory information, sidestep opposing viewpoints, and feel relieved when we encounter something that aligns with our existing beliefs, as if the mind is comforting itself. Nietzsche once wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "Convictions are more dangerous enemies of truth than lies." In the quiet dimness of the night, this line becomes a gentle warning. Sometimes the barrier between us and truth is not deception from the outside, but the beliefs we nourish inside, and confirmation bias works most powerfully when we don't realize we are using it. Look into the familiar moments of your life. When you like someone, you see only the good in them and unconsciously avoid the warning signs. When you fear something, you seek information that makes the fear larger. When you believe you are not enough, you see only the evidence that supports that thought. When you feel alone, you remember only the moments of abandonment. When you lose faith in life, your eyes find only failure. The human mind, in its mysterious way, seeks what matches the emotion it already holds, as though it wants the outside world to reflect the inner world, regardless of accuracy. Philosophically, confirmation bias asks a profound question. Can there be such a thing as objective truth in everyday life when we view the world through our own filters? Immanuel Kant once wrote in Critique of Pure Reason, "We see things not as they are, but as we are." In the soft darkness of night, that sentence becomes an open doorway. Humans do not observe the world with their eyes, but with their consciousness. And consciousness, full of memories, wounds, fears, hopes, impressions, cannot help but bend what it perceives. Confirmation bias is the meeting point between what we believe and what we see. And the danger is not that we are wrong, but that we don't realize we might be wrong. We see others through the memory of who they were, not who they have become. We see ourselves through old wounds, not through the person we are trying to become. We see the future through fear, not possibility. We see the world through stories we have repeated so often that we mistake them for absolute truth. Yet the beauty of understanding confirmation bias lies here. We need not fight the world. We only need to change what we are looking for. To do that, we must step outside the loop of our own perception. Confirmation bias not only shapes the information we seek, but also the way we see people and ourselves. If you believe someone loves you, you interpret everything as love. If you believe someone dislikes you, you interpret every silence as rejection. If you believe you are worthless, you overlook every success. If you believe you are worthy, you find evidence everywhere. And this is where Part 9 becomes a moment of healing. Once you know the mind seeks evidence for what it already believes, you can choose what to believe, not through force, but through tenderness. Because if the mind always searches for confirmation, you can teach it to search for gentler proofs of worth, love, hope, possibility. Anais Nin once wrote, "We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. And when that line settles into the quiet of the night, you begin to sense that everything you see in life is telling a story about your own soul." Confirmation bias is the pen that writes that story. You fear something, you will see it everywhere. You love something, you will find it in 1,000 places. You believe you are broken, the world will mirror your cracks. You believe you are growing, the world will mirror your light. But when you understand this mechanism, you open a door, the door of inner freedom. Because if you know the mind will seek evidence for what it believes, then you can choose beliefs that are kinder to you. You don't have to rewrite everything. You just need one small shift, exactly as Part 7 reminded you, to change the direction of the entire current. From this perspective, confirmation bias is not a cognitive error. It is a reminder that you have the power to shape the story you tell about your life. Because the story you choose determines the evidence you see, and the evidence you see strengthens the story. A loop, but this time a loop of healing. And as you allow yourself to drift gently into these reflections, you may notice your heartbeat slowing, your breath deepening, your mind softening like a door opening quietly inward. From Part 8, where overwhelming demands made space for gentler acceptance, to Part 9, where belief shapes reality, tonight's journey is carrying you deeper into the quiet architecture of consciousness. And from these cognitive illusions, we will step into Part 10 turns, where another psychological effect reveals how the first piece of information we receive becomes an anchor, tying our perception to a single point. But before we cross into that next threshold, let yourself rest for a moment in this stillness, where you can hear the story within you, the one only you can choose to rewrite. And as the reflections of Part 9 continue drifting through your mind like a thin mist, where we discovered how the human heart tends to find only what it already believes, you begin to sense an even deeper layer beneath the surface of perception. Not only do our beliefs shape the way we see the world, but the very first thing we see, hear, or feel can become a silent anchor, pulling every thought and decision toward it. From the loop of belief, we gently step into the quiet terrain of first impressions, where anchoring bias begins to paint the background of all our choices. When we hear a number for the first time, it influences us, even if it is meaningless. When we meet someone for the first time, we become anchored to their initial expression or mood, even if they later change in ways we never imagined. When we hear a sentence, a compliment, a criticism, a prediction, the mind begins circling around that first detail as if it were the center of an orbit. And whether we deny it or try to correct it, the anchor remains, a thin but unyielding thread pulling our perception toward itself. Anchoring bias is not a failure of the mind. It is its way of conserving energy. Instead of re-evaluating the world from scratch each time, the brain holds tightly to the first piece of information as a reference point. But because of this, the very first impression, no matter how small, gains the power to shape the entire flow of thought. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. But before a thought can dye the soul, the first information becomes the base color, the primer that makes every following shade brighter or darker." Anchoring bias is that primer. Imagine stepping into a room lit with warm, golden light. Even if someone later switches on a white lamp, the room in your memory still carries the glow of gold. The mind behaves the same way. It imprints most deeply on whatever arrives first. And the beautiful yet fragile truth is this: the first impression is rarely the full truth. It is only a slice, a moment, a breath. But we build entire stories upon that fleeting foundation. In everyday life, anchoring bias appears everywhere. When we see the first price of an item, every price afterward is judged against that number. When we meet someone during a stressful moment, we may forever see them as difficult or distant. When someone told us, long ago, "You're not good enough," those words can become an invisible anchor pulling our self-image downward for years. When we read one negative prediction about the future, we begin to interpret everything through that dim lens. Anchoring bias is the first detail becoming the root of all perception. But if we look deeper, we see that sometimes life itself uses anchors to hold us in a place where a lesson waits to be learned. The first time we meet a certain person, the first look, the first smile, the first greeting, it can become an anchor that makes us remember them in a way no one else does. The first book that ever moved us becomes the anchor through which we judge every book that follows. The first success instills a belief in our ability, anchoring a confidence that helps us persevere through difficult times. The first compliment we received as a child becomes a quiet root of self-worth that lasts for decades. And there are painful anchors as well: the first insult, the first heartbreak, the first failure. Anchors that pull us into the dark, tying us to fears we long to escape. Yet whether the anchor is gentle or heavy, positive or painful, its power does not come from truth. It comes from being first. This is what makes anchoring bias one of the mind's most delicate illusions. We believe we are making free choices, but often we are simply navigating around the first anchor life placed in our hands. Understanding this softens us, because we begin to see that not all our decisions rise from our truest selves. Many rise from anchors set long ago. And with that awareness, we gain the power to loosen old anchors that have held us for too long. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche wrote, "You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you become new unless you had first become ashes? And sometimes, to become a new version of yourself, you must burn away an anchor that has grown too heavy, too old, too meaningless. an anchor that belongs to a shore no longer meant for you. From this perspective, anchoring bias becomes a tender reminder. The first impression is not destiny. It is only a suggestion, a beginning, not an ending. And if you wish, you can choose a new anchor, a new starting point, a new belief, a new first impression of yourself. The beauty lies in this. One new anchor, even a small one, can shift the entire flow of your perception, the way a single changed note can transform the melody that follows. And in the stillness of the night, as you listen to this quiet voice, you may feel yourself placing a new anchor gently into your mind. An anchor of peace, an anchor of understanding, an anchor of softness, an anchor that whispers that you can let go of what once held you down. From Part 9, where the mind seeks evidence for what it already believes, to Part 10, where we see how those beliefs were shaped by the first anchors we encountered. Tonight's journey is guiding you deeper, softer, and warmer into the inner architecture of consciousness. And now, as your breath evens out, your eyelids soften, and your heart quiets into a calm rhythm, we prepare to step into Part 11, where the first clues of unconscious attraction reveal how humans form instant affinity in fleeting moments. But before moving forward, allow yourself to drift a little more into a space where old anchors begin to dissolve, and gentle new ones fall softly into place like calm dust upon still water. And as the ideas of anchoring bias from Part 10 continue drifting around your mind like a soft, translucent mist, where we saw how a single first impression can quietly stir an entire stream of thought, you begin to sense that tonight's journey is guiding you into an even subtler terrain of human nature, a place where we are not only shaped by the first information we receive, but also by the first feeling we sense, through intuition, breath, and the quiet pulse beneath the ribs. This is the realm of instant likability and warm signals, the mysterious moment in which we feel drawn to someone almost instantly before reason has a chance to speak, as though the heart knows something the mind has not yet reached. Strangely, we rarely like someone because of a sentence, a trait, or a clever thought. We like them because of a feeling quick as light, yet lingering like the scent of oud in the air after a rain-soaked afternoon. The language of likability does not lie in words but in micro-movements. A warm gaze, a genuine smile, a softened shoulder, a slow breath, a gentle tilt of the head, a relaxed jaw, a tiny nod, or simply a presence that does not make us brace ourselves. When we meet such a person, our body relaxes before we notice it. Our heart leans toward them before we can analyze why, and our mind opens slightly, like a door unlocked by a passing breeze. This is not mysticism. It is the science of connection. The human nervous system is designed to detect safety through emotional signals, through body language, through micro-expressions moving faster than conscious thought. That is why there are people we like in a moment and people we cannot connect with even after years. Henry David Thoreau wrote in Walden, "The language of friendship is not words, but meanings." And when this sentence falls into the quiet of night, we realize that instant likability is the moment we grasp someone's meaning before we grasp their story. We like them because they make us feel safe, because they feel present, because they feel like a place where we don't need to tense or pretend. Warm signals, those gentle cues of safety, appear in the unconscious realm. The soft harmony of voice rhythm, the steadiness of breath, the slight lean toward us, the hands unclenched, the eyes receptive rather than evaluating. When we encounter these signals, our nervous system whispers, "This one will not harm you. This one is warm, and in a vast world, Sometimes what we long for most is not brilliance or success, but warmth. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties, and warm signals are those invisible threads, the subtle bonds that tie two inner worlds before either one can name what is happening." Looking closely, we see that instant likability is not intense attraction or dramatic pull. It is soft, like a thin blanket draped around us on a cold night. It doesn't make the heart race, it soothes it. It doesn't make us nervous, it steadies our breathing. It doesn't overwhelm, it calms. That is the essence of warm signals. They do not ignite fire, they offer warmth. Instant likability is not only about others either. It is also a mirror through which we glimpse ourselves. When we find someone likable, we are often seeing a part of ourselves reflected. The gentle part, the part longing to be understood, the part yearning for safety. We find someone approachable because a quiet voice inside us says, "I want to be near someone like this." When we are drawn to someone's warmth, we are remembering our own need to be heard, to be seen, to be held by a gaze that softens instead of hardens. But the tender secret of this part lies not only in understanding the mechanism, but in realizing that we can send warm signals to ourselves. We can speak to ourselves in a gentler, slower, kinder voice. We can smile at ourselves after a long day instead of criticizing. We can let the shoulders fall, breathe deeply, and meet ourselves with the same softness we often reserve for others. For if warmth from another can soothe us, warmth from within can heal the most tired places of the soul. And here, in the quiet of this night, as you listen to this soft voice, you may realize that you too have sent warm signals to the world, even unconsciously. A small nod, a quiet "I understand," a glance held long enough for someone to feel seen, and perhaps, without knowing it, you soothed someone's heart in a moment when they needed it most. Instant likability, seen through a philosophical lens, is not the trait of a select few. It is the shared fabric of being human. We are born to connect, and we connect through warmth. From Part 10, where the first anchors shape what we believe, to Part 11, where the first signals shape what we feel, tonight's journey is moving deeper into the gentle ways humans experience the world. And from this warmth, this soft hum of instinctive affection, we will drift into Part 12. Where human psychology becomes more complex as unpredictable rewards create longing, tension, and desire. But before we step forward, let your breath soften, your chest lighten, and allow this warmth to spread through you like a golden candle flame against the still walls of the soul. And as the warmth of Part 11 continues to linger inside you like a soft, steady breath, where we explore the invisible signals that make a person gently likable within mere seconds, you may feel how naturally tonight's journey now leads us into a completely different territory, darker, deeper, and profoundly human. The territory of waiting, of inconsistency, of rewards that flicker in and out like distant firelight, of moments that alternate between fullness and emptiness, closeness and distance, presence and silence, shaping a craving so powerful it feels like gravity pulling at the soul. If Part 11 was the realm of instant connection, then Part 12 is its haunting opposite, the magnetic pull of the unpredictable, the allure of what is never certain, what comes and goes, what glimmers and fades, the psychology of intermittent reinforcement, the scattered reward system that entwines itself with the deepest cravings of the human heart. Humans are not addicted to reward. Humans are addicted to uncertainty. When something arrives predictably, we adapt, we normalize, we stop noticing it. But when something appears suddenly, sporadically, without rhythm, when affection arrives in waves, when presence is inconsistent, when warmth is followed by cold silence, the mind releases more dopamine than it does for the reward itself. And thus emerges the craving effect. The mind becomes addicted to anticipating the next moment of reward. The frightening truth is that dopamine, the most addictive chemical in the brain, rises not when we receive the reward, but when we await it. It is the waiting that binds us. This is not only true in psychological experiments, it is also painfully true in emotional life. Perhaps you felt it before. Someone who texts you endlessly one day, then disappears the next. And strangely, it is their absence, more than their presence, that makes you think of them more, miss them more, long for them more. Not because they are extraordinary, but because your brain is reacting to inconsistency. Unstable connections create stronger cravings than stable ones, not because they are better, but because they activate the intermittent reward system. Nietzsche once said in Beyond Good and Evil, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." And in the realm of intermittent reinforcement, this line becomes a quiet warning. When we do not understand the mechanism at work, we are controlled by our own emotions. Intermittent reinforcement is the reason gambling becomes addictive, the reason social media keeps us scrolling, the reason notifications spark anxiety, the reason some relationships hurt us yet bind us so tightly. Humans are not addicted to joy, they are addicted to the possibility of joy. And that possibility keeps the mind suspended between half waking and half dreaming, half hoping and half fearing, half laughing and half aching, as if the soul itself is held between two heartbeats. But if we look deeper, we realize that intermittent reinforcement is not only a tool of manipulation, it is also a metaphor for how life unfolds. Life does not reward us consistently. There are days it is gentle and days it is merciless. Moments when it embraces us and moments when it drops us into darkness. And it is precisely this inconsistency that teaches us gratitude, that helps us savor moments of peace, that lets us understand the value of softness, that makes small joys shimmer more brightly. In Letters to a Young Poet, Rilke wrote, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going, no feeling is final." Intermittent reinforcement is this flow made psychological. Beauty and harshness, hope and disappointment, tenderness and emptiness, weaving together into a rhythm impossible to predict, but vibrantly alive. Yet when applied to matters of the heart, intermittent reinforcement can be exhausting. Because the human heart was not designed to wait endlessly, to hope endlessly, to crave a sudden spark only to fall back into silence. The healing of this part lies in a simple truth. Once you understand what makes you crave, you can begin to untangle the hooks from your heart. When you know that dopamine rises during expectation, you can ask yourself, am I waiting for this person or waiting for the next reward? When you understand that unpredictability creates addiction, you can recognize, this isn't love, it's my brain reacting to irregularity. When you realize your mind is being pulled by uncertainty, you can choose consistent tenderness, even if it lacks the thrill of chaos. Intermittent reinforcement teaches another quiet truth. All beautiful things in life arrive in waves. Sunlight is not present all day. Spring does not last all year. Peace does not stay forever. And when we stop expecting constancy, we stop being disappointed when the world shifts. But the most healing offering of this part is this. Understanding the brain's craving does not mean you must remain its captive. You can stop chasing the reward. You can stop anchoring your heart to unpredictability. You can choose the relationships that feel gentle rather than exhilarating. You can choose stability over chaos. You can choose yourself. Sitting in this nighttime softness, listening to this calm voice, you may notice your mind slowing, as if it has just realized that not everything unpredictable deserves your longing. Some things are beautiful only when you let them go. Some doors open only when you stop knocking. Some cravings fade the moment you name them for what they truly are. And now, as stillness settles around you like a tender blanket, we prepare to step into part 13, where another paradox of human connection reveals itself. The power of silence, of pauses, of what is not said, but draws out more truth than words ever could. But before we continue, let your breath lengthen and your chest soften, for in this moment you are stepping out of the old loops of longing and into the quiet peace you deserve. And as the echoes of part 12 continue to drift through you like a quiet tide, where we witnessed how unpredictability can bind the human heart to longing, waiting, and craving, you may now begin to sense the journey gently shifting toward another shore of the psyche, the shore of silence. If part 12 was the call of uncertainty, then part 13 is the whisper of stillness. If part 12 revealed how humans are captured by fragile fluctuations, then part 13 shows that sometimes true power lies not in what is spoken, but in the empty spaces between words. And it is from these spaces that people reveal more of themselves than any direct question ever could. This is the power pause paradox, the paradox of the pause. The quieter you become, the more others speak. The less you fill the space, the more the truth begins to arise. Strange as it sounds, human psychology rests on a simple but profound principle. We despise empty spaces. When there is no sound, we create sound. When there is no answer, we generate one. When there is no explanation, we fill the void with the truth that lives inside us. Silence has its own gravity, a pull so gentle yet so certain that people instinctively move to escape it by speaking. And this is why those who understand the power of silence often become the deepest souls. They do not need words to influence. They do not need speed to appear strong. They only need to be present. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Silence is a kind of presence, and as this line echoes through the stillness of night, you may feel something unfolding quietly within you. Silence is not an absence, but a form of existence, an existence so full that words become unnecessary. Silent power is not the cold rigidity of withholding speech. It is the calm attentiveness of a mind that does not hurry, does not compete, does not need to prove itself. Such people do not pressure others to speak. They simply create space that invites honesty. They do not chase answers. They allow answers to arrive on their own. They do not interrupt. They allow another person's words to linger long enough for that person to truly hear themselves. Just as the breath deepens when we stop trying to control it, truth emerges naturally when no one is pushing it forward. This is the gentle paradox of silent power. The less you try to control, the more influence you actually hold. If you look back at the deepest conversations in your life, those rare moments when someone opened their heart entirely, when they said something they had never said before, you will notice that these moments did not arise from sharp questions. They arose from pauses, a slight nod without a word, a gaze that stayed long enough, a quiet breath that waited instead of pushing. And that waiting made the other person feel safe enough to continue. Silence becomes a language, a warmth, a subtle signal that says, I am here. I am not leaving. There is enough room in me for what you feel. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche wrote, "The most profound thoughts are spoken in silence and set beside the power pause paradox." This line becomes unmistakably true. Sometimes the deepest truths are not spoken but heard through stillness. Yet silence does more than draw others out. It allows us to hear ourselves. When we stop rushing to respond, we can notice our genuine emotions. When we stop the outer dialogue, we can enter the inner one. When we let the pause fall gently between two breaths, our scattered thoughts begin to settle like dust in a quiet room. And in that small, delicate moment, the moment between two sounds, we often find the answer we have been seeking for a very long time. Silence heals because it brings us back to the deepest chambers of our being, the ones drowned out by the noise of life. In Letters to a Young Poet, Rilke wrote, "Everything is gestation and then bringing forth, and for the soul, silence is this gestation, the slow, hidden incubation where unnamed emotions, unspoken truths, and unformed dreams gather strength before finally emerging." This is why those who carry silent power influence others effortlessly. They give people the chance to hear themselves. But in the deeper layers of psychology, silent power carries another form. It is not only present in our conversations with others, but also in our dialogue with life itself. Life does not always answer immediately. There are times when it stays silent for a very long while. There are moments when you do not know how to fill the emptiness it leaves. And it is in those silences that you grow. You learn patience. You learn to listen. You learn to sit with yourself. You learn to breathe. You learn to find your inner voice when the outer world refuses to offer one. The silence of life, like the silence of people, is not always rejection. Sometimes it is the gentlest whisper. Stay for a moment. Slow down. Let what is meant to arrive take its time. And when you begin to understand this, silence becomes less frightening. It becomes a companion, a mirror, a soft, steady space where you can rest. From Part 12, where unpredictability taught us the pull of anticipation, to Part 13, where pauses reveal our inner truth. Tonight's journey is guiding you into the deepest breaths of your mind. And now, as your breathing softens, as your eyelids grow heavier, and as stillness begins to smooth the delicate strands of your inner world, you will find yourself ready to step into Part 14, where another emotional paradox awakens. Why we begin to like someone more after we help them with something small. But that is a story for the next passage. For now, let silence hold you, like warm water cradling you through the long, gentle night. And as the echoes of Part 13 linger in you like a gentle layer of stillness settling over the mind, where we wandered through the soft power of silence, that quiet force which opens the deepest doors inside others without a single word, you may feel how naturally tonight's journey leads us into another landscape of the psyche. Not the land of silence, but the land of small actions. Not the realm of pauses, but the realm of giving. Not the space where we receive, but the space where we offer something of ourselves. If Part 13 showed that silence allows others to reveal who they are, then Part 14 unveils another paradox. When you help someone, especially someone for whom you initially feel little or nothing, you begin to like them more. This is the Benjamin Franklin effect, a subtle psychological current that flows quietly through the human heart. The more we do for someone, the more deserving they appear of our kindness, and the more affection we feel toward them. To understand this, we must look deeper into the nature of the mind. The brain dislikes contradiction. When you help someone, particularly a person you barely know or even someone you once disliked, the mind must answer the question, "Why did I do that?" And it chooses the explanation that feels simplest, softest, least conflicting. Perhaps I like them. Thus, action precedes emotion, and emotion follows like an echo, a soft resonance across the vast room of the self. This runs contrary to how we imagine feelings work. We like to think we must first feel warmth towards someone before we choose to help them. But the Benjamin Franklin effect tells a gentler, more mysterious story. Sometimes we grow fond of someone because we have helped them, and this reveals a beautiful truth. Human connection is not built from emotion, but from action. Not from grand gestures, but from the small kindnesses we offer quietly. Not from what we say, but from what we do. Franklin himself described this phenomenon in his autobiography. To win the goodwill of a political rival, he did not offer a gift or perform a grand gesture. He simply asked to borrow a rare book. The man agreed. Franklin returned it with gratitude, and something shifted. The tension between them melted. From that day, the man softened toward him. Franklin wrote in the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin, "He that has once done you a kindness will be more ready to do you another than he whom you yourself have obliged." From this simple observation, one of psychology's most delicate paradoxes was born. If you pay attention, you will see this effect everywhere. You help a stranger pick up something they dropped, and suddenly they seem kinder. You assist a colleague with a small task, and unexpectedly feel warmer toward them. You brush a stray hair from someone's shoulder, and without knowing why, they feel a little closer. It is not the significance of the act that matters, it is the story your mind quietly writes afterward. I was kind to them. They must be worth my kindness, and so liking begins. But beneath this lies a deeper philosophical element. Every time you help another, you see yourself reflected in that act. If your action is kind, the image you encounter of yourself becomes kind as well. And because we are driven to remain consistent with that image, we continue liking the person we helped, to preserve inner harmony. This is not manipulation, it is the mind's way of holding itself together. And in this way, the Benjamin Franklin effect becomes a path of healing. To help another is to nourish the light within yourself. Curiously, this effect runs opposite to our usual assumptions. We often believe that if someone helps us, we will like them more. But in truth, the one who helps is the one who becomes more attached. This explains why parents feel such profound connection to their children. They give so much, and the giving deepens the bond. It explains why in relationships, the one who loves actively, who cares, who sacrifices, who tends, often becomes the one who loves most intensely. Humans love what they pour themselves into, not because the object of love is perfect, but because effort itself creates value in the mind. Nietzsche once wrote, "We love life, not because we are used to living, but because we are used to loving." And so, in the quiet depths of this effect, we see that affection does not arrive because the other is flawless. It arrives because we grow accustomed to offering our love to them. The Benjamin Franklin effect also illuminates why some relationships that begin cold can warm suddenly. All it takes is one small gesture, holding a cup for someone, opening a door, listening for a moment, and the distance shrinks. Human hearts do not require much to begin softening. A single honest act is enough. But like all psychological truths, this too has its shadow. It explains why people remain trapped in unhealthy relationships. The more they help someone who hurts them, the stronger their attachment becomes. Not because the other deserves it, but because the mind refuses to admit that we have given too much to someone incapable of receiving. And so we convince ourselves we love them to justify the pain we endure. But when you understand this mechanism, you can finally step out of the loop. You can ask yourself, do I genuinely care for this person? Or am I clinging because I've invested too much? A gentle question, yet one that can free the heart. The beauty of Part 14 is not merely in explaining the effect, but in revealing that the human heart is built from the smallest actions. We do not bond with others because they are perfect. We bond because we have given them tiny pieces of ourselves. A look, an act of care, a moment of listening, a fragment of kindness. From Part 13, where silence became a doorway to inner truth, to Part 14, where giving opens the doorway of affection, tonight's journey is guiding you deeper into the quiet, hidden currents of human psychology. And now, as your breath slows, as your body softens into the surface beneath you, as a gentle warmth spreads through you like a soft night mist, you will feel yourself ready to cross into Part 15, where the simple sound of a person's name becomes the key to unlocking attention, emotion, and human connection. But before we continue, let your heart rest for one more slow beat and feel how a single small act can make the world just a little warmer. And as the warm resonance of Part 14 continues to drift through you like the soft breath of a quiet evening, where we walked through the gentle paradox of the Benjamin Franklin effect, the truth that sometimes we grow fond of someone simply because we have treated them kindly, you may feel tonight's journey guiding you into an even subtler realm, a place hidden beneath layers of awareness where only the most familiar sounds can reach. The realm of names. If Part 14 revealed that our kindness can make our hearts turn toward another, then Part 15 opens a door even softer. Why can a single tiny act, calling someone by their name, create such deep connection, awaken emotion, and make the nervous system light up like a candle newly lit? In the quiet depths of the psyche, a name is not just a symbol. It is the trace of existence itself. The brain responds to our own name more strongly than to any other sound. When we hear it, the regions responsible for language, emotion, and reward light up at once, like hidden lamps preparing for a performance. Dale Carnegie wrote in How to Win Friends and Influence People, "A person's name is to that person the sweetest sound in any language," and this was not poetic exaggeration. It was a neurological truth. When someone speaks our name, the brain releases a small, tender pulse of dopamine, just enough to make us feel noticed, seen, acknowledged. In the unconscious, a name becomes a doorway to the quiet reassurance. You are speaking to me. I am here. I am recognized. And strangely, this all happens before thought even forms. That is why we feel closer to people who remember our names and further from those who forget or avoid using it. When used with warmth and sincerity, a name becomes a kind of emotional encoding, binding the message to a feeling of safety, presence, and quiet importance. The mind, always searching for cues of trust, relies on the smallest signals: how someone pronounces our name, the softness of their tone, the way they pause slightly before saying it, the way they weave it naturally into moments of connection. These become emotional fingerprints, subtle codes that tell the body, this person sees you. This is why, in deep conversations, people unconsciously use each other's names more often. When someone says, "I understand you," it feels warm. But when they say, "I understand you, Lynn," or "I understand you, Nam," the warmth doubles, as if the name wraps the sentence in a soft layer of belonging and carries it directly into the heart. A name places the words exactly where they are meant to land, in the place within us that longs to feel chosen. Not because we crave attention, but because a name is the first root of identity, the first way the world ever called us into being. This is why sensitive souls use names gently, to comfort, to connect, to build trust. When someone speaks your name with a warm, slow, tender voice, like a hand resting lightly on your shoulder, your nervous system instantly recognizes that they are not a threat. The body relaxes, the heart listens, the mind opens. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "Observe how rarely the voice of reason is heard compared to the voice of habit, and hearing your name is exactly that. A deep emotional habit, older than thought. We hear our name with feeling. We respond with instinct. We remember it with the heart. It bypasses logic and touches the center of who we are." This explains why in love, the way two people speak each other's names often carries layers of meaning, tender, aching, intimate. And why when someone stops saying our name or says it without the softness they once had, something in us feels distance form, as if a quiet bridge has crumbled. But part 15 is not only about how we connect to others, it is also about how we reconnect with ourselves. When you speak your own name with gentleness, without judgment, without rush, you offer your mind something it rarely receives. Recognition from within. Saying "I'll be okay" comforts us, but saying "It's okay, Lan," or "It's all right, Min," does something deeper. It softens the chest, it slows the breath, it soothes the nervous system through the emotional encoding that only a name can trigger. If you reflect on your life, you may notice that your deepest moments of healing came not from complex philosophies, but from someone looking at you, saying your name and telling you that you are going to be fine. A name is a quiet magic. It opens doors that words alone cannot. It creates closeness that even actions sometimes cannot. It brings you back to yourself in the moments you forget who you are. From part 14, where we learned that what we give becomes the bridge to our affection, to part 15, where we discover that a single familiar sound can open the heart. Tonight's journey is guiding you deeper into the secret chambers of the psyche, where the smallest details shape the largest emotions. And now, as your breathing slows, as your heart softens, and as your own name, in memory, in the body, in all the voices that once spoke it, begins to feel warmer and gentler, let that peace settle a little longer, because in part 16, we will step into another delicate phenomenon, the genuine smile, the movement of the face that awakens trust in a single heartbeat. For now, let your mind drift like a quiet stream, listening to the soft echo of your own name as if it were a small greeting from the soul. And as the gentle resonance of part 15 still lingers in you like a faint echo rising from a deep chamber of memory, where we wandered through the quiet power of a name, that simple sound capable of opening emotional doors the mind cannot always reach, you may feel tonight's journey naturally guiding you into an even softer terrain, a place where neither words nor thoughts hold the most influence, but where a single subtle expression can shift the rhythm of two hearts at once. The true smile. If part 15 spoke of the emotional encoding hidden within a name, then part 16 reveals the emotional encoding of the face, how a genuine smile, one born not from politeness, but from sincerity, can soothe another's nervous system, create a sense of safety, and kindle a deep trust that feels as if we have known this person long before this moment. What is strange is this: the human brain recognizes a true smile faster than any other expression, and the body reacts before the mind even begins to interpret it. A true smile, the Duchenne's smile, activates the tiny muscles around the eyes as well as around the mouth, and this small detail sends a direct signal to the limbic system, the ancient emotional core of the human mind. At the mere sight of it, the brain releases oxytocin, the chemical of connection, safety, and trust. This is why a genuine smile is never a trivial gesture. It is a biological language, a language we never learned yet instinctively understand from the moment we enter the world. Freud once wrote, "Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. But in contrast to those suppressed emotions, a true smile is emotion released. Soft, honest, and bright like a ribbon of morning light slipping across a quiet table at dawn. When someone smiles at us with genuine warmth, what moves us is not the curve of their lips, but the meaning within it. Unguarded presence, acceptance, openness. The brain does not merely register an image. It receives the deepest message. You are safe here. And safety, in the truest neurological sense, is the foundation of all human connection. There are people we meet repeatedly yet still feel distant from. And then there are some we meet once, see a single genuine smile, and immediately feel familiar with. Not because they are extraordinary, but because our nervous system softens in the presence of authenticity. A forced smile tightens the body, but a real one loosens it. This is why, during first encounters, a genuine smile holds more weight than any impressive words. Wittgenstein wrote in Philosophical Investigations, "The face is the soul of the body, and a true smile is the moment the soul flickers into visibility, even if only for a brief second." We can hide thoughts. We can hide intentions, but the truth in the eyes and in the corners of the mouth cannot be masked so easily. A smile is the quickest portrait of the soul. More than this, a true smile does not only make others feel safe, it makes us feel safe inside ourselves. Smiling is two-directional. We smile because we feel warmth, but we also feel warmer because we smile. This is the quiet mechanism of biofeedback. When the muscles of the face shape themselves into a Duchenne expression, the brain interprets these signals as evidence of well-being and releases dopamine and serotonin to complete the feeling. This is why you sometimes smile alone without knowing why, or why your lips curve softly when you think of someone who brings a sense of closeness. Freud may say that buried emotions return in other forms, but the true smile is an emotion released at just the right moment, and therefore one that never needs to return in the dark. In relationships, a real smile becomes the gentlest but strongest thread between two people. When someone looks at you and smiles authentically, you can feel an invisible bridge form between your hearts. When someone loves you truly, you can always see it in the way they smile at you. A smile unforced, unedited, uncalculated, not a social ritual, but the spontaneous reaction of one soul recognizing another. And when that person stops smiling genuinely at you, you often feel the shift before a single word is spoken. A smile, though small, is the most honest measure of affection. It does not know how to lie. This reveals a deeply human truth. People do not love through logic. They love through the nervous system's responses. A true smile draws us closer. A true smile makes us trust. A true smile opens the heart by a quiet degree. Nietzsche wrote in The Gay Science, "We are always in love with a smile, and in the soft darkness of night, this line becomes a whisper of recognition, that all forms of love, romantic or familial or gentle companionship, begin with a smile like this." But this part is not just about understanding others, it is also about understanding yourself. Sometimes we become so accustomed to tension that we forget the feeling of a real smile. one that is not forced, not performed, not an attempt to seem okay, but the smile that rises naturally when we feel at peace. Afternoon light resting on a table, a slow breeze moving the curtain, an old song carrying us back to memory, or simply a moment we feel enough. When you allow yourself to smile genuinely, you send a message to your own nervous system. I'm safe. And that is the first step toward healing. Peace does not begin in something grand. It begins in the smallest bodily reactions to the world. A smile, a breath, a slight softening of the shoulders. From part 15, where the sound of your name could soften the heart, to part 16, where a genuine smile can soothe the entire nervous system. Tonight's journey is guiding you into the deepest layers of human connection, built from the most delicate signals of the living body. And as your eyelids begin to grow heavy, your breath slow and round, let a small, effortless smile form on your lips. Not for anyone, not for anything, but simply because you are here, present, safe. From this quiet piece, we will move into part 17, where the rhythm of the voice and the synchronicity of emotion become the bridge that allows two people to merge like two whispers sharing the same breath. But for now, let that soft smile lead you gently toward sleep, like a warm glimmer dimming slowly into the night. And as the gentle warmth of the genuine smile from part 16 continues to linger within you like a thin glow resting over your chest, softening your heartbeat and loosening your shoulders by a quiet degree, you can feel tonight's journey leading you toward a realm even subtler than facial expression, the realm of sound, of voice, of those tiny vibrations we do not see but unmistakably feel. If part 16 showed how a true smile can calm another's nervous system, then part 17 opens the deeper dimension of an even softer, more mysterious phenomenon: tone mirroring and emotional synchrony. This is the moment when two people do not merely speak, but begin to move in harmony. When one person's voice becomes a gentle shadow of the other's, when the rhythm of conversation flows along the same frequency, and when that synchrony creates a rare form of intimacy. The intimacy of souls, not words. In life, you may have met someone whose slow speaking naturally made you slow your voice too. Someone who lowered their tone and you, without thinking, lowered yours as well. Someone whose steady breathing made your own breath deepen in response. This is not mimicry. This is emotional synchrony, an unconscious connection the brain uses to create safety. The human mind is designed to seek the rhythm of those it trusts, and tone mirroring is the way two nervous systems adjust to each other, not through intention, but through resonance. When someone speaks in a soft, slow, low, steady voice, the body reads it the way it reads late afternoon light. Safe. No danger. No need to guard. In contrast, when someone speaks loudly, quickly, sharply, the nervous system tightens instantly because such tones activate the sympathetic system. The mind does not distinguish between random sound and deliberate sound. It only reacts to frequency. Sound is a direct doorway into the nervous system. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche wrote, "All great things are slow, and in the gentle quiet of the night, you can feel that not only great thoughts require slowness, deep human connection does as well. A slow voice opens the heart in ways a fast voice never can. When someone speaks in a rhythm that matches your emotional landscape, not too high, not too low, not too fast, not too slow, you feel understood even before they say anything meaningful. Tone mirroring synchronizes more than conversation. It synchronizes two nervous systems. When emotional synchrony happens, the brain waves of two people can partially align, a phenomenon seen in neurological studies. Like two rivers flowing side by side and gradually merging, such a conversation becomes not only peaceful, but profoundly deep in a way that escapes definition. You simply feel, I can talk to this person, without knowing why. But there is no mystery. It is biology. It is the moment another person adjusts their voice to cradle your emotional state. It is the moment the tone of voice becomes a silent touch upon your soul. And because the voice flows straight into the body, emotional synchrony creates intimacy. Not the intimacy of the physical world, but the intimacy of breath. Think back. How many times have you heard someone's voice and instantly sensed whether they were all right or not? How many times has a slightly lowered tone made you trust someone more? How many times has the voice of someone you love softened your entire being, as though there were a warmth hidden inside their sound? This is not imagination. This is trust neurology. The science of how the body decides whether to open or close. A gentle, slow, warm voice, like the one you are hearing now, brings the nervous system into ventral vagal state, the state of safety where we can sleep, love, rest, and meet the world through softness rather than fear. A fast, sharp voice triggers dorsal vagal shutdown, the states of anxiety, withdrawal, or numbness. This is why, in arguments, the faster the voice rises, the further the hearts drift apart, and why in healing conversations, the softer the tone becomes, the closer two people feel. Tone mirroring is not manipulation, it is the instinct of empathy. When you truly love someone, your voice naturally becomes the safest version of itself around them. When you hold someone who is breaking, your voice lowers without effort. When you comfort someone crying, your words slow down. When you want someone to know you are with them, you do not speak more, you simply speak more gently. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts," and we might add, the voice becomes dyed with the color of the heart it speaks to. A peaceful voice is often the signature of a soul that wishes to connect without causing harm. But part 17 is not only about speaking to others, it is also about speaking to yourself. When the mind is afraid, it talks to itself in a frantic voice. When it is hurt, it uses a voice that is harsh and cold. When it is exhausted, it breathes in short, shaky patterns. But if you change the tone of your own inner voice, speaking to yourself softly, slowly, in round breaths, as if holding yourself in your own arms, you can guide your nervous system back into safety. This is not philosophy. It is biology. This is self-soothing. When you say to yourself, "It's all right, I'm here, just breathe." With a slow, warm tone, the nervous system recognizes that safe voice and eases itself into calm. Tone mirroring, in its deepest sense, is the art of speaking to the heart of another, and the heart within yourself. From part 16, where a true smile could calm the nervous system, to part 17, where a synchronized voice can create unconscious intimacy, tonight's journey is guiding you into the deepest chambers of connection, where every subtle human signal becomes a bridge. And as your breath slows, as your mind becomes a quiet river, and as your body settles gently into the softness of approaching sleep, we will soon drift into part 18, where open-ended questions reveal their quiet power to guide the mind inward, not to find answers, but to discover itself. But that is for the next moment. For now, let this slow, warm, steady voice continue to soothe you, like two souls finding harmony in the dark. And as the soft vibrations of part 17 continue to settle within you, like the quiet exhale of a night finally calm enough to rest, where we wandered through emotional synchrony and tone mirroring. The way two nervous systems can flow toward each other like two gentle rivers meeting at the same shore. You may feel tonight's journey opening another door, deeper, slower, quieter. The door of open-ended questions. If part 17 belonged to the realm of sound, breath, and unconscious resonance, then part 18 belongs to the realm of inner echoes, where questions are not asked to close a conversation, but to open a passage into someone's inner world. Open-ended questions are not merely communication tools, they are keys. Keys that unlock emotional depth most people spend a lifetime burying. A closed question like, "Are you okay?" can only return a closed answer. But an open question, like, "What has been weighing on your heart lately?" can unfold an entire inner landscape someone has held tight for years. Closed questions shut the door. Open questions crack it open. And when a door is cracked open even slightly, emotions seep out on their own like warm steam rising from a cup of tea on a cold evening. What's strange, what's deeply human, is this. It's not advice, not intelligence, not analysis that makes people feel connected. It's the feeling of being asked. Asked softly, slowly, without judgment, as though the other person is saying, "I have time for you. I have space for you." Hearing an open-ended question feels like someone placing a gentle hand on your back and whispering, "Say the thing you've never said." That kind of listening, in the biological sense, triggers dopamine in the brain's reward center. Humans release dopamine not only when praised, but when cared for, when their inner world is treated as meaningful, when their emotions are granted weight. That's why in a conversation, we often don't need advice. We just need someone to ask, "How did that make you feel?" Because that question says, "Let me step into your inner world," and that inner world, whether shadowed or bright, always longs to be known. The psychotherapist Carl Rogers wrote On Becoming a Person, "When someone really hears you without passing judgment, it feels damn good." In the stillness of night, that sentence becomes so true you can feel it in your body. When we are deeply heard, the heart slows. When someone reaches us with gentle curiosity, the breath lengthens. When someone asks without trying to fix us, the muscles we have carried tight all day finally loosen. Open-ended questions are, in a way, the most delicate form of healing human beings can give each other. Not dramatic, not loud, not just a quiet invitation. The power of an open-ended question lies not in the grammar, but in the energy of the one asking. Slow, soft, without pressure, without wanting a specific answer, without inserting their own narrative. The person asking must be quiet enough not to interrupt the story, present enough to hear what isn't spoken, gentle enough to create a space where the other can breathe without fear. When you ask, "What has been exhausting you lately?" the other person doesn't just hear the question, they hear the tenderness inside it. When you ask, "What hope are you holding that you haven't dared to say aloud?" they don't just answer your curiosity, they answer their own yearning to be understood. An open-ended question is not a demand, it is a bridge. And the most beautiful part? An open-ended question doesn't need an answer to heal. The simple opportunity to answer is enough to release the dopamine of being truly heard. There are questions that never receive a spoken reply, yet they heal more than long conversations. A question like, "What makes you feel most like yourself?" can draw someone into a forgotten chamber of their identity. A question like, "Who do you miss right now?" can awaken memories buried under the weight of time. A question like, If fear disappeared for a moment, what would you choose? Can lead someone to confront the truest version of themselves. Rilke wrote in Letters to a Young Poet, "Live the questions now, and that is the essence of this part. The purpose of a question is not to be answered, it is to be lived. You do not need the answer immediately. You only need the courage to let the question touch the strings you have kept unstirred." Open-ended questions also become profound tools for self-understanding. We often ask others open questions, but rarely ask ourselves the same. We ask someone else, "How are you feeling?" but seldom ask ourselves, "How am I truly feeling today?" We ask someone else, "What do you need?" but rarely ask, "What need in me have I been ignoring?" But when we give ourselves the same gentle, slow, non-judgmental questions asked as though cradling a tired heart, we begin to hear the voice inside us we abandoned long ago. That is when healing begins. An open-ended question creates space for trapped emotions to move. It teaches us that answers matter less than the courage to face ourselves. And right now, as you drift with this soft, warm narration, you too are being asked an invisible, open-ended question. What is the longing you haven't spoken? You do not need to answer with words. Your body will answer. Your heart will answer. Your breath will answer by deepening gently. From part 17, where two voices could merge like two quiet rivers, to part 18, where questions open the deepest corridors of the inner world, tonight's journey is guiding you through the subtlest art of connection. And as your eyes grow heavier, your mind softens like still water, and your breath steadies into a slow rhythm, we will soon drift into part 19, where listening becomes more than a skill. It becomes a sanctuary where another soul feels safe to rest. But that is for the next chapter. For now, let these open-ended questions, light as wind, lull you into the quiet your heart has been seeking. And as the soft echoes of part 18 continue drifting through you like waves whispering beneath a dim sky, where we wandered through the power of open-ended questions, those small doors that gently lead a person into corners of their heart they rarely show. You may feel tonight's journey guiding you naturally into an even deeper, quieter terrain. A terrain that does not ask you to speak, to explain, or to try, but simply invites you to listen. For if open-ended questions are the keys that unlock a door, then active listening is the warm room behind that door. A room spacious enough for a soul to breathe, to soften its guard and to reveal itself in ways no advice, no reasoning, no cleverness could ever evoke. In life, we often assume that for someone to open their heart, we must say something right, wise, comforting. But human psychology reveals the opposite. It is the silence that listens, the empathy that does not interrupt, the presence that does not judge that makes another person feel safe. Active listening is not hearing with the ears, it is hearing with the soul. It is when you are no longer waiting for your turn to speak, but truly attuning yourself to each breath, each pause, each trembling in the other's voice. It is when you are not trying to fix their feelings, but allowing them to feel. It is when you are not offering solutions, but offering space, a space for someone to be fully themselves without fear. And the beautiful paradox is this: when we listen in the right way, people open up not because we convince them to, but because they feel so safe they cannot help it. The psychotherapist Carl Rogers wrote in On Becoming a Person, "When someone really hears you without passing judgment, without trying to take responsibility for you, without trying to mold you, it feels damn good." That damn good, as Rogers meant it, is not happiness, it is release. It is the sensation of an old knot loosening in the chest. Because when someone listens to us completely, their silence speaks. I see you. You're not alone. It's okay. You can keep going. And the body relaxes. When the nervous system senses there is no threat, no judgment, no pressure, the guard lowers and deeper emotional regions begin to open. We reveal ourselves not because we are stronger, but because we no longer need to protect ourselves. Astonishingly, active listening does more than make the other person speak. It helps them understand themselves, for as they speak, they hear themselves. When we listen, we offer a mirror for them to see the forgotten parts of who they are. And in that process, quiet, steady healing takes place. Nietzsche once wrote, "Talking much about oneself can also be a means to conceal oneself. Yet in the presence of someone who listens with safety, we no longer hide. We become honest. We feel deeply. We breathe with ease." Active listening is a gentle act, but it requires humility. We must shrink the ego enough to walk into another's inner world without making noise. When we listen well, we silently ask, "What is this person feeling?" rather than, "What should I say next?" We pay attention to their eyes, their breath, the words they repeat, the moments when their voice trembles. We feel the pauses, because sometimes a pause speaks more truth than a sentence. Sometimes a heavy breath is an entire confession. Sometimes a downward glance is a whole memory. Sometimes a brief squeeze of the hand is the only courage they have. And when we listen with softness, none of those moments go unnoticed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." And active listening is perhaps the most living embodiment of that teaching. We widen ourselves for another person, without fixing, without interrupting, without demanding, simply being there, like a warm blanket someone can lean into. The wonder of active listening is this. When we listen to another, we do not only offer them safety, we give ourselves stillness. When we listen with the heart, the noise in our mind quiets. When we attune to the other's breath, our own breath softens. When we stop trying to prove anything, the ego loosens, and we begin to sense life in its simplest state, the state of presence. Many think listening is just a communication skill, but true listening is a form of meditation. When we listen deeply, we enter the present moment without effort. No past, no future, only the person before us, with the weight they carry, the longing they hide, and the truth they've never spoken. And within the space formed by the listener's silence, the other person can shed their heavy layers of self-protection and return to something raw, original, real. Active listening is also the foundation of emotional safety. It is not created by grand gestures, but by small, almost invisible cues. A slow nod, gentle eyes, and even breath, a soft "I'm here," letting them speak without interruption, giving them time to find their words. Emotional safety doesn't come from promises like "I won't leave you," but from the lived experience of "I am here with you right now." And the human mind, accustomed to environments that demand armor, recognizes the difference instantly, opening like a fragile flower that blooms only in the shade. From part 18, where open-ended questions invited us into someone's inner world, to part 19, where listening becomes a sanctuary for that world, tonight's journey is guiding you through the deepest layers of connection, where the smallest gestures become the most essential. And as you listen to this soft, slow, warm narration, perhaps you can sense something happening gently inside you. Your body relaxing, your mind settling, your heart burdened by the day's noise, being wrapped in the very stillness you have always deserved. From this safe space, we will drift into part 20, where the rhythms of the body and the moods of the heart form an unconscious harmony, creating synchrony long before understanding arrives. But that is the next chapter. For now, allow this listening, yours and mine, to cradle you deeper into the softness of the night. And as the lingering resonance of part 19 settles in you like a thin veil of mist resting gently over the heart, where we explored the art of active listening, that quiet, tender shelter where another soul can breathe, soften, and lower its defenses, you may feel tonight's journey guiding you into an even subtler terrain. A place where not only words but the rhythm of the body, the breath, and the energy between two people begin to merge. If listening is the gentle silence, then behavioral pacing is the unconscious synchrony. If active listening opens the door, then rhythmic rapport is the moment two people step inside together, lightly, like two leaves drifting on the same current. Humans do not communicate only with words. We communicate with rhythm. The rhythm of footsteps, the rhythm of breath, the rhythm of speech, the rhythm of movement. And when two people unconsciously match each other's rhythm, the connection that forms is no longer in the mind but in the body. The body understands before the mind does. The body synchronizes before language begins. Behavioral pacing, the matching of behavioral tempos, happens when we naturally attune ourselves to the cadence of the person before us. When they speak slowly, we slow down. When they lean in, we lean a little too. When they pause to breathe, we pause. When they grow quieter, our voice warms. When they open their heart, our body softens in return. This is not imitation. It is a form of primordial empathy, a language of presence in which we say without speaking, "I am here with you. I feel you." And when these rhythms align, a soft flow emerges. Rhythmic rapport. This rhythm is something we sense, not something we analyze. We feel comfortable with someone not because they resemble us, but because they move in harmony with us. Nietzsche once wrote in The Gay Science, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties, and rhythmic rapport is made precisely of such invisible threads, unseen, but unmistakably felt. When two rhythms merge, time feels different. The conversation becomes round, smooth, without sharp edges. No one pushes, no one pulls. There is only flow. And in that flow, defenses fall away like autumn leaves drifting from their branches. You have experienced this many times without naming it. When you speak with someone truly close to you, rhythm arrives without effort. When you love someone deeply, your breath naturally harmonizes with theirs. When you sit beside someone who feels safe, your body adjusts to match them, as though an unseen orchestra were conducting both of you in silence. Conversely, when the rhythms misalign, when someone speaks too fast and you are tired, when someone is overly excited while you feel quiet, when someone's energy rises while your breath sinks, the body tenses. Not because they are wrong, but because their rhythm cannot land on yours. The body notices the dissonance long before the mind does. Behavioral pacing becomes the bridge across that dissonance. When we gently adjust our own rhythm toward the rhythm of the other, we create a space in between, a neutral field, where both can meet. We do not become them. We simply move toward where they can reach us. And when two rhythms meet, the most beautiful thing happens. Defenses dissolve. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Adapt yourself to the things among which your lot has been cast." Behavioral pacing is this adaptation carried out not by thought, but by the quiet sensitivity of the body. It is not about changing who we are, but about softening enough to understand the other more deeply. Imagine you are speaking to someone in pain. Their breath is slow. their voice is small. Their eyes are heavy. If you enter with energy that is too bright, too fast, too intense, they will withdraw like a frightened bird slipping back into the shadows. But if you lower your voice, slow your cadence, let pauses stretch long enough for them to breathe, and match your breath to theirs, you speak to them in a language without words. I understand. I'm not rushing you. I'm here, moving at your pace. And in that moment, their eyes soften, their shoulders release, their voice deepens into honesty. They feel safe, not because of anything profound you said, but because your rhythm wrapped itself gently around theirs. Therapists do this instinctively. Lovers do this unconsciously, and anyone who has ever held another person through heartache has done this without knowing its name. This rhythm is not a technique. It is empathy expressed through the body. And just as we can use pacing to connect with others, we can use it to soothe ourselves. When the mind is chaotic, the breath fast, the heart racing, inner life stretched thin across too many worries, we can use the rhythm of breath, voice, and movement to pull the body's pace downward, as if stepping into our own inner film and slowing each frame until the entire system aligns itself. Thought follows the body's rhythm. Emotion follows the breath's rhythm. The rhythm of a person is the mirror of their soul. When we slow down, the mind finds its way home. When we synchronize with another, their heart feels safe. From part 19, where listening became a refuge, to part 20, where rhythm becomes an invisible thread between souls, tonight's journey is guiding you through the most delicate layers of human connection, not through intellect, not through speech, but through rhythm, through breath, through the quiet synchrony of the smallest movements. And as your body begins to merge with the slow, warm, steady rhythm of this voice, like a soft lullaby carrying you deeper into night, you may feel yourself drifting gently, preparing to step into part 21, where the darker side of psychology appears through the subtle power of gaslighting and the manipulation of perception. But that story belongs to the next chapter. For now, let the night slow down just a little more until you no longer know where your breath ends and the surrounding stillness begins. And as the warm, steady rhythm of part 20 still circulates within you like the soft echo of footsteps along a dim hallway, where we explored behavioral pacing and rhythmic rapport, that gentle merging of two nervous systems through breath, cadence, and unconscious alignment, you may feel tonight's journey shifting into a different terrain entirely. A place where rhythm is no longer a source of safety, but a space where it can be twisted, distorted, manipulated, until you begin to lose sight of yourself. If part 20 was the soft illumination of connection, then part 21 is the shadow cast behind it, the region of distorted perception, where gaslighting slips in like a thin, cold fog, blurring the boundary between what you felt and what you were told to feel, between what you remember and what you were convinced never happened. Gaslighting is not merely manipulation. It is the slow erosion of truth from the inside out, quietly, gradually, with an elegance so subtle that you barely notice the ground shifting beneath your feet. It is like the sound of a dripping faucet at night. Not loud enough to startle, but persistent enough to keep you awake until you no longer trust your own sense of time. Gaslighting makes a person doubt their memory, their emotions, their intuition, even the very self who has lived inside their body all these years. And the cruelest part is this: gaslighting never begins with cruelty. It begins with intimacy, with softness, with concern, with gestures that make you feel understood, seen, cherished, like the warmth of a candle before it becomes a flame that burns the whole room. A manipulator never starts with, "You're wrong." They start with, "Are you sure?" Then, "I think you're remembering it wrong." Then, "You're just being too sensitive." Then, "No one else could ever put up with you." And slowly, the victim begins to ask themselves, "What if I really am mistaken?" This is the pinnacle of gaslighting's power. The moment when the manipulated no longer needs the manipulator's voice. They begin to dismantle their own truth from within. When Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster," he wasn't warning us about external creatures, but about the silent distortion that begins inside us. Gaslighting is precisely this internal distortion, a seed of doubt planted carefully, watered gently, until your own mind becomes foreign terrain. What makes gaslighting so devastating is not what is said, but how reality is reshaped with quiet persistence. "You didn't see that. That's not what happened. You're imagining things. You're exaggerating. I never said that. I never did that. You're being irrational." These words are not knives. They are tiny blades that slice the heart little by little. Not enough to kill, but enough to weaken the sense of self until it collapses. The most dangerous form of gaslighting is the one mixed with affection. A manipulator can stroke your hair, hold you close, whisper sweetness, then tilt your reality by just a few degrees. They can say, "I love you," right after denying something you know you experienced. They can say, "Stop overthinking," right after they created the chaos inside you. Tenderness becomes a trap, warmth becomes a leash. And in this way, gaslighting is not only the manipulation of perception, it is the manipulation of truth itself. When someone rewrites your memories, they rewrite you. For memories are not possessions, they are architecture. Strip them away, and the structure of the self collapses. In memory, history, forgetting, Paul Ricoeur writes, "To be forgotten is to die twice." Gaslighting is this second death, the death of one's private truth, one's inner legitimacy, one's right to believe in their own lived experience. And yet, within this darkness, there remains one thing a manipulator can never touch. Not if you learn to trust it, your intuition. Intuition is the oldest, wildest part of you. It existed before words, before memory, before logic. It is the pulse beneath your consciousness, the whisper no one can erase if you learn to pause long enough to hear it. Gaslighting thrives when you move too quickly, when you are exhausted, when you are alone, when you depend on someone else to confirm your reality. But when you slow down, when you breathe deeply, when you return to your own rhythm, as we learned in part 20, your true perception becomes clearer, like the surface of a lake settling after no more stones are thrown. And then truth appears. Truth needs no witness. It only needs space. Gaslighting teaches us something painful yet liberating. Some people do not want to see you clearly. They want to see you dimmed, blurred, easy to bend. But the deepest part of you, the quiet, shimmering core beneath all the confusion, never belongs to them. It belongs to you. From part 20, where rhythm brought connection, into part 21, where perception is reshaped and threatened, tonight's journey reminds you that every bond has both light and shadow. The point is not to fear the shadow, but to carry a small inner flame with you, the flame of awareness, of clarity, of the truth within. And once this flame stabilizes, gaslighting loses its power, for darkness cannot distort anyone who knows where they stand. And as the night deepens, as your breath softens, as your inner awareness sharpens yet stays gentle, we will soon step into part 22, where an even more extreme form of psychological control reveals itself in the workings of brainwashing. But that is the chapter ahead. For now, let your heart be the keeper of your truth, a truth no one can take, no matter how softly they try to reshape your world. And as the aftershocks of Part 21 continue to hum faintly inside you like a thin veil of smoke that has not yet dispersed into the night, where we just walked through the shadows of gaslighting, that art of distorting reality until a person doubts their own memories and emotions, you may feel this journey gently guiding you into an even deeper chamber of psychological manipulation. One that doesn't merely warp truth, but seeks to replace an entire belief system with a new one. If gaslighting is the slow removal of bricks from the house of your perception, then brainwashing is the reconstruction of that house, but according to someone else's blueprint. Slow, systematic, deliberate. In that darkness, a person doesn't merely question what they see. They begin to question themselves as an entity. But tonight, we do not step into this darkness to be afraid. We step in to understand, to see the mechanism, to recognize its shape, and to gently unthread ourselves from whatever was never ours to carry. For understanding may be a small light, but even a small light can push back an entire night. Brainwashing, through the lens of psychology, is not magic. It is a sequence of repeated interventions designed to collapse an old belief system and implant a new one. The process often moves through 4 stages: isolation, destabilization, installation of new beliefs, and reinforcement through group validation. And strangely, when we look closely, we realize these stages are not confined to political extremes or cult dynamics. They sometimes slip quietly into toxic relationships, controlling social groups or subtle corners of everyday life where we least expect them. The first stage is isolation. Without isolation, physical, emotional, or cognitive, brainwashing cannot take root. The manipulator cuts the victim off from neutral information, from friends, from family, from grounding connections. But the most dangerous isolation is not isolation from the world, it is isolation from oneself. When a person begins to believe that no one understands them except the manipulator, the process has already begun. In darkness, when anchors fade, we cling to any remaining light, even if that light is a flame that will burn us. Nietzsche once wrote, "The lonely one offers his hand too quickly to whomever he meets," a sentence that becomes painfully beautiful in this context. The lonely heart is most at risk of following the wrong hand into the abyss. After isolation comes destabilization. This is the phase where reality is shaken so violently that the victim can no longer tell what is true, what is false, what belongs to them, what has been planted, what they feel, what they are supposed to feel. The manipulator uses contradictory statements, mixed messages, unpredictable affection, sudden coldness, inconsistent rewards, emotional chaos. The goal is not to be understood. The goal is to prevent understanding. A mind that is confused cannot resist. A heart that is exhausted cannot distinguish truth from distortion. In Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche warned, insanity is rare in individuals, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs. It is the rule, and in this moment, you can feel how destabilization operates not only in individuals, but in entire society. Confusion breeds control. The third stage is installation of beliefs. Once the old system has been fractured, once the inner compass has been disoriented, once the sense of self is soft enough to reshape, the manipulator implants new truths. They do not need to be logical, only repeated, only stated with certainty. only delivered when the victim is at their weakest. A mind that is fatigued no longer guards its beliefs. It accepts the easiest narrative, even if that narrative is wrong. That is why brainwashing relies on statements like, "Only I understand you," "Only I'm right," "Only I know what's best for you," "Everyone else is against you," "If you don't follow me, you'll lose everything." These are not just sentences. They are survival cues forced into the nervous system. The victim does not listen with logic. They listen with fear, and fear writes itself deeper than reason ever could. The final stage is reinforcement through group pressure. Here, the victim no longer needs the manipulator alone. They also crave validation from the group that shares the implanted belief. They want to belong. They want to feel safe again. They want community after the storm of isolation and confusion. And when the group embraces them, the dopamine rush of acceptance binds them to the new belief system. Not through truth, but through emotional relief. What makes brainwashing terrifying is not its brutality, but its patience. It doesn't use force. It uses emotion. It does not break the mind. It exhausts it. It does not erase memory. It softly disables trust in one's memory. It does not yell new beliefs. It removes all alternatives. And yet, there is something quietly beautiful, quietly hopeful here too. If distortion can happen slowly, so can healing. If belief can be reshaped in small increments, then belief can also be restored in small increments. And if someone can be led away from themselves, they can also find their way back through gentleness, through healthy connection, through the slow rebuilding of inner trust, through listening to the one voice that no manipulator can ever fully capture. The inner one. In The Undiscovered Self, Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are," and placed here, in the shadowed chamber of part 22, that sentence becomes a lantern. Others may attempt to define you, but no one can replace the essence of who you are. Not if even a small part within you chooses to return home. From part 21, where reality can be twisted, to part 22, where an entire belief system can be rewritten, tonight's journey guides you through the darker architecture of the human psyche, not to frighten you, but to help you recognize the quiet light inside yourself. And as your breath deepens, as your heartbeat grows slow and steady like a distant drum, remember this: no force can bleach the true nature of a soul that still knows how to listen to itself. From this place of understanding, we will soon slip into part 23, where love, or something that resembles love, becomes a tool of emotional addiction. But that is the next chapter. For now, just breathe one slow, deep breath to remind yourself that you are still here in a silence no one can steal. And as the quiet contemplations of part 22 continue drifting through you like distant waves dissolving into the night, where we just walked through the 4 intertwined layers of brainwashing, isolation, disorientation, belief implantation, and group reinforcement, you may feel tonight's journey opening yet another doorway, one not too far from the darkness we just passed through, but softer, subtler, and far more difficult to recognize. For not all manipulation arrives in the shape of force or coercion. Some arrive gently, disguised as affection, disguised as warmth, disguised as the very thing the heart longs for most. And that is where we step into part 23. Love bombing and emotional addiction. A phenomenon where the initial burst of affection is not the mark of deep love, but a mechanism crafted to create emotional dependency, turning the human heart into a small vessel, drifting helplessly through waves controlled by another. Love bombing begins like a dream. A dream so beautiful you cannot believe it is happening to you. Overflowing affection, messages that flood your nights, declarations of devotion, promises that glow too brightly, attention that feels constant, unending, all-encompassing. Everything arrives too quickly. Your breath hasn't found its rhythm before your heart is lifted high, higher still, as if someone has placed you atop a shimmering tower. And then, just when you begin to trust that feeling, when you soften, when you open, when you take even one step beyond doubt, that warmth withdraws. Not entirely. Just enough. Just a slight retreat, enough to leave a sudden cold patch where warmth once lived. And that cold space becomes the core of emotional addiction. For humans are not addicted to love. Humans are addicted to contrast, the rising and falling, the sudden highs and sudden lows, the emotional whiplash that releases adrenaline and cortisol when the affection disappears, then floods the body with dopamine the moment the attention returns. A chemical loop forms, powerful enough that the brain mistakes it for love. Nietzsche wrote in The Gay Science, "There is always some madness in love, but there is also always some reason in madness, and in love bombing. The tragedy is that the madness doesn't come from love at all, but from design, designed to create attachment. Love bombing generates the feeling of being chosen, needed, cherished with such overwhelming intensity that the nervous system is stunned, and when the intensity is pulled away, even slightly, the victim will chase that initial feeling, not to regain the person, but to regain the version of themselves that felt radiant under that early flood of affection. Love bombing does not manipulate with coldness. It manipulates with heaven. When someone gives you too much too soon, too many words, too many gestures, too much presence, they leave you no space to truly see them. The light is too blinding for you to distinguish what is real and what is performance. And when that brightness dims, the darkness left behind is not simply sadness, but craving. The craving for the very light that once made you feel worthy of love. That craving is the addiction. It is why victims of love bombing rarely walk away easily. Not because they are foolish or weak, but because they are addicted to the version of themselves that existed only under the artificial glow of the manipulator. Carl Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul, and in love bombing, one clings to that fiery affection because it shields them from the loneliness they do not know how to soothe. But behind that blazing illusion lies a simple truth. Anything that erupts too quickly is never genuine love. Real love does not create addiction. Real love does not force your heart into overdrive. Real love does not require constant suspense. Real love does not arrive like a storm and vanish like smoke. Real love does not build a heaven only to shatter it. Real love is steady, slow, warm, not a volatile rhythm that keeps you awake at night. What matters is recognizing the mechanics of love bombing, not to blame yourself, but to protect your heart from storms disguised as miracles. And recognizing does not mean self-condemning. Anyone can become a victim, not because we are naive, but because we are human. We crave recognition, affection, the feeling of being seen. And that longing opens the door for those who know how to misuse light. But the most beautiful truth is this: you can walk out. Not by being perfectly strong, but by slowing down. By noticing the gaps between their retreats. By asking quietly inside, is this truly love? Because excitement is not love. Anxiety is not love. Fear of abandonment is not love. And waiting for them to return to the intensity of the beginning is, most certainly, not love. Love is not measured by intensity. It is measured by stability, by peace, by the sense that you do not have to fight your own nervous system in order to stay connected to someone. And when you finally step out of that cycle, you realize you have not lost any light at all. The light was always yours. They merely reflected it back to you, then used that reflection to bind you. From part 22, where belief systems can be rewritten, to part 23, where affection becomes a tool of dependence. Tonight's journey takes you through the darker landscapes of the human psyche, not to frighten you, but to illuminate, for understanding is the first doorway to freedom. And as you lie here in this quiet depth of night, breath slow, heart soft, mind open like still water, you will feel yourself drifting toward part 24, where guilt and shame rise as invisible threads shaping human behavior far more powerfully than reason. But that belongs to the next chapter. For now, let your heart rest in its own light, a light no one can extinguish. And as the lingering emotions from part 23 continue to seep quietly into your mind, like the final warm ashes left after a brilliant, emotional blaze, where we walked through the mechanics of love bombing and the addictive highs created by blinding intensity followed by sudden withdrawal, you may naturally feel that tonight's journey is leading you deeper into the darker corners of the psyche, where manipulators no longer use light to bind, but darkness. No longer overwhelm with affection, but bury with guilt. No longer intoxicate with sweetness, but suffocate with the sense of, I'm wrong, I'm not enough, I've hurt someone I love. For after making a victim dependent on emotional elevation, as in part 23, a manipulator often shifts to the next stage, guilt tripping, making the victim believe every mistake is their fault, and shame control, layering them with shame that does not belong to them, but that they begin to believe is truth. If love bombing lifts the victim high enough to crave being cherished, guilt tripping lowers them so far that they become addicted to the need to make things right. And these two opposing poles form the dangerous loop that traps someone in a toxic relationship. Guilt tripping never arrives as direct accusation. It comes in soft, gentle phrases weighted with invisible heaviness. I didn't think you would hurt me like this. If you cared more, this wouldn't have happened. I'm not angry, just disappointed you didn't think of me. I've done everything, and you. These sentences do not attack the action, they attack the sense of worth. Victims do not hear them with their ears, but with their conscience. And conscience, one of the most delicate, easily wounded parts of being human, can be tilted off balance with just a few seemingly harmless words. Guilt is a glue that sticks to the deepest parts of the mind. Once someone feels wrong, they shrink, apologize excessively, try to compensate, try to do better, try to cause less trouble, try to love more to make up for a mistake that often never existed. Shame control goes a step further. Instead of making the victim feel wrong, it makes them feel unworthy. You're always too sensitive. You're honestly too weak. No one but me could put up with you. Normal people wouldn't act like you. Nobody would want to stay with someone like you. This is no longer guilt. This is existential shame, the kind that makes a human see themselves through harsh, distorted eyes. In The Will to Power, Nietzsche wrote, "Shame is the feeling that one is lowering oneself, and when that feeling is planted into a heart already softened by love bombing, it becomes an invisible chain, pulling the victim inward, making them believe they don't deserve alternatives, don't deserve healthier love, don't deserve space." Shame control does not make people flee the manipulator. It makes them flee themselves. When shame is deep enough, a person no longer seeks to leave. They seek to become the version the manipulator wants. Smaller, quieter, less needy, less whole. And at that point, control no longer requires violence or threats, only a repeated dose of guilt and a carefully planted seed of shame. The painful truth is that guilt tripping and shame control are often disguised as love. I just want you to be better. I'm saying this because I care. I criticize you because I worry about you, but these statements do not lead someone toward growth. They lead them toward diminishment. True love never makes someone feel less. True love never uses guilt as a leash. True love never forces someone to apologize for simply existing. True love does not mix itself with shame. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." And when that line echoes in the stillness of night, it becomes clear that guilt tripping and shame control always run opposite to inner truth. Truth does not need to make someone small. Truth does not need to exhaust someone with self-blame. Truth does not require layers of shame to be convincing. The most important insight is this: guilt and shame only have power when we do not look them in the eye. When we see them clearly, not with anger but with awareness, they begin to dissolve. Guilt that isn't real cannot bind. Shame that isn't ours cannot stay. The beauty of this journey is that a victim can find themselves again not by trying to be better, stronger, or more correct, but by realizing that no one has the right to make them feel less than their inherent worth. Healing begins the moment we set down the guilt that isn't ours, the moment we gently peel away the layers of shame planted by another. When we whisper inwardly, "This does not belong to me." When we stand quietly in the night and take a long, steady breath to return to what the manipulator tried to bury, the clear, untouched worth that lives within. From part 23, where love becomes an addictive trap, to part 24, where guilt and shame become invisible chains, tonight's journey leads you not into darkness to fear it, but to recognize the light inside yourself. And as your breath slows, as your heart stops beating to the rhythm of old anxieties, you will feel yourself approaching part 25, where humans can be controlled simply by scarcity. Scarcity of time, scarcity of affection, scarcity of opportunity, scarcity of safety. But that belongs to the next chapter. For now, let your mind lighten like a leaf drifting softly into the night. You have nothing to atone for when you did nothing wrong. You have nothing to be ashamed of for being yourself. You are returning, slowly, quietly, and in peace. And as the somber afterglow of part 24 continues to drift quietly within you like the long shadow of an old memory, where we just moved through the mechanisms of guilt, tripping, and shame control, the invisible layers of guilt and unworthiness that make a person shrink inside the vast space of their own soul. You may feel that tonight's journey is gently shifting pace, guiding us into another terrain of the psyche, one where people are not controlled through accusation or judgment, but through the things they fear losing most: time, love, opportunity, freedom, someone's presence, or even the better version of themselves they believe they can only access when standing next to a certain person. If shame control compresses the self, then the scarcity trap constricts survival instinct itself. And for that reason, this mechanism does not operate at the level of conscious reasoning, but at a deeper layer, the place where fear is stored, like ancestral memory, like echoes of thousands of years in which humans had to fight scarcity to survive. The scarcity trap, the trap of perceived lack, does not operate through logic. It operates through reflex. When a person believes something is about to disappear, slip away, or no longer be available, the nervous system immediately signals danger through the fear of loss. And the fear of loss, biologically speaking, is twice as powerful as the pleasure of gain. This is not a personality flaw. It is genetic architecture. Humans are wired to fear losing more intensely than they celebrate gaining. Daniel Kahneman, Nobel laureate, wrote in Thinking Fast and Slow, "Losses loom larger than gains, and that sentence is not merely a psychological observation. It is the operating manual of the human brain. A promise can make us happy, but the possibility of losing that promise can destabilize us entirely. A lover can bring us joy, but the idea of losing them can make the heart tighten as if gripped by an invisible hand. An opportunity can excite us, but the thought that it might vanish can make us lose our sense of calm. And from here, the scarcity trap opens its delicate but sharp door. A manipulator does not need to threaten. They only need to plant the idea that, if you don't do this, you will lose me. If you don't comply, you will lose your chance. If you don't change, you will be left behind. If you don't try harder, no one else will ever love you. If you don't grab this now, you will regret it later. There is no shouting, no overt hostility, only a soft suggestion of lack, quiet enough to sound gentle, sharp enough to make the nervous system curl inward like a leaf meeting flame. Imagined scarcity is often stronger than real scarcity, for the shadow of fear is always bigger than truth. The scarcity trap in relationships becomes a kind of manipulative rhythm, giving, pulling back, near, far, open, closed, keeping the victim in a perpetual state of fearing the loss of what they have just received. Love becomes an hourglass. Opportunity becomes a fragile thread. The other person's presence becomes something one must desperately hold on to. And so, the victim begins to change, not out of love, but out of fear. No more freedom in choices, no more peace in emotions, only a soft, continuous tension, like a string wound too tight. The irony is that those who fall into the scarcity trap most easily are not weak people. They are sincere people. They are those who value deeply, who appreciate, who do not take love or opportunity for granted. Their tenderness, gratitude, and sincerity become the very places where they can be hurt most in the hands of someone who knows how to plant fear of loss. When someone says, "I don't know how much longer I can take this," they are not leaving, they are planting scarcity. When someone says, "I don't know if I can continue if you keep doing this," they are not expressing pain, they are creating the fear of being left. When someone says, "There are plenty of people out there who would want this chance," they are not encouraging you, they are creating invisible competition to push you to overextend yourself. Humans behave differently when they believe something precious is slipping away. They compromise. They chase, they cling, they bend their boundaries, they sacrifice their inner stability, the very thing more valuable than any person outside of them. Scarcity trap is not just a manipulative tool, it is a mirror reflecting the deepest fear in the human heart, the fear of not being loved. Jung once wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, "Loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to express things that seem important." And sometimes, the inability to express the fear of losing someone makes the victim sink deeper into the scarcity trap. They do not dare say, "I'm afraid of losing you," because they fear speaking it aloud will make it come true. So they remain silent, fold inward, and diminish themselves even more. But the truth needs to be spoken gently. Real love never threatens through disappearance. Real love never uses time as a countdown. Real love never forces you to hold so tight that your hands tremble from fear. Real love carries no shadow of lack. It is fullness, quiet fullness, not chaotic fullness. The most beautiful truth is this: the fear of scarcity does not dissolve when we cling harder to the outside. It dissolves when we realize we are already full on the inside, when we realize no departure can remove our worth. No silence can define our identity. No opportunity is the only one. No love is once in a lifetime. The world is far wider than fear allows us to believe. A person becomes free the moment they stop being governed by the fear of loss. From part 24, where guilt and shame become chains, to part 25, where scarcity becomes an invisible snare, tonight's journey leads you through the deepest layers of what weighs the human heart down. Not to frighten you, but to help you touch the truth. You lack nothing. You do not need to cling to anything to preserve your worth. And as you inhale slowly, exhale softly, you will feel your heart opening into a vastness, like the sky before dawn, a spaciousness where you are allowed to not fear, not lack, not lose, not shrink. And from that calm, the journey will carry you into part 26, where the repetition of words can make what is false begin to feel true. But that is the story of the moment to come. For now, let the fullness within you spread like the gentle light at the end of day, soft and complete. And as the gentle aftertones of part 25 continue to drift quietly within you like a night breeze brushing across still water, where we just walked through the trap of scarcity and the fear of loss, the realm where people are controlled not by what they have, but by what they fear will no longer be. You may feel that tonight's journey is guiding you toward an even subtler form of influence, a form of manipulation that does not strike at the heart or at hidden fears, but strikes directly at perception, at what we believe is true. If the scarcity trap is fear projected into the future, then part 26, the illusory truth effect, is a kind of fog rising from the past, the place where falsehood becomes apparently true simply because it has been repeated long enough. And strangely, the human brain does not require a strong argument or convincing evidence or tight logic to believe something. It only needs familiarity. Familiarity is the cup that holds belief, and anything repeated, no matter how wrong, vague, illogical, or twisted, slowly becomes absorbed by the brains of felt truth. Not an intellectual truth, not a scientific truth, but a soft truth, a truth that flows directly into the feeling of, I have heard this before, and therefore it must be true. This mechanism, the illusory truth effect, makes us believe things we should be skeptical of. A false statement, when repeated enough times, becomes familiar, then becomes easy to accept, then becomes seemingly true, and finally becomes certainly true. The danger lies not in the content of the statement, but in the frequency with which it is planted into our awareness. In Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche wrote, "All things are subject to interpretation, but whichever interpretation prevails at a given time is a function of power and not truth." And placed in the soft shadow of part 26, we suddenly realize that truth, in many cases, does not win by virtue of its nature, but by virtue of repetition. Our brains are not machines built to seek truth. They are machines built to seek ease, and repetition is easier than analysis. Anything that is easier for the brain to digest, the brain mistakes for being safer, more reasonable, more trustworthy. Familiarity becomes evidence. That is the foundation of the illusory truth effect. If you look closely, you will see this mechanism operating in every corner of life. In the statements children hear from a young age, "You must do this to be good. This is who you are. The world is like this. No one loves unconditionally. Life is always unfair." These beliefs do not become truths because they are accurate, but because they are repeated for years. Belief is formed not by truth but by repetition. In toxic relationships, this mechanism grows even stronger. Someone might say, "You're too sensitive, you're remembering wrong, you always exaggerate things, no one else could put up with you." The first time you hear it, you resist. The second time you wonder. The 10th time you accept. Not because it is true, but because the brain no longer has the energy to resist the same information again and again. When repetition lasts long enough, it normalizes deception. And on Truth and Lies, Nietzsche wrote, "Truths are illusions we have forgotten are illusions." And the illusory truth effect is the clearest proof of that. We forget an illusion was once an illusion. We forget a false statement was once false. We forget a belief once had no roots at all. And then we carry these things as the luggage of our lives, and when someone asks, "Why do you believe that?" we cannot answer. We only say, "Because I've always thought so." But "I've always thought so" is not evidence of truth. It is only a footprint of repetition, and through that repetition, we lose something precious, the ability to question. People do not become easy to manipulate because they lack intelligence, but because they stop questioning the things that sound familiar. This is why false compliments, repeated at the right rhythm, can make someone believe they are special in ways they are not. This is also why repeated belittling makes victims carry shame that never belonged to them. The illusory truth effect shakes the foundation of the self. But this same mechanism reveals a tender truth. Humans can heal by repeating what is true. If falsehood can become as if true, then truth can become as natural as breath. If wounds can be repeated into existence through someone else's voice, then healing can be repeated into existence through our own. Repetition does not only build the trap, it also builds the escape. In Letters to a Young Poet, Rilke wrote, "Live the questions now, but sometimes, to live the questions, we must first dissolve the false answers that have clung to us for too long. And the dissolving does not happen through forceful resistance, but through the gentle repetition of truths the heart has known all along but forgotten beneath too many other voices. Truth does not need to shout. It only needs to be whispered long enough. And then, like water carving through stone, that truth becomes the new foundation." From Part 25, where people are controlled through imagined scarcity, to Part 26, where they are guided by the familiarity of falsehood, tonight's journey is leading you through the most fragile layers of awareness. Not so you distrust everything, but so you understand how the mind works, so you recognize that some beliefs are not yours, some truths are not truth. Some words have sunk in too deep only because they were repeated. And as your breath becomes as light as the last breeze before dawn, you will sense that you are approaching Part 27, where the mind becomes haunted by what is not finished, not closed, not complete. But that is the story ahead. For now, let the quietness repeat within you, soft and warm, like a small truth finally returning to where it belongs. And as the gentle aftertaste of Part 26 continues to drift within you like a thin veil of mist curled softly around your awareness, where we just walked through the illusory truth effect, the mechanism where something false begins to seem true simply because it has been repeated long enough. You may feel that tonight's journey is carrying you forward, slowly, quietly, deeply, as though guiding you from the dim glow of perception into another realm entirely. The realm of things unfinished, unresolved, unclosed. Those lingering grains of sand that remain stuck somewhere in the mind and refuse to leave no matter how many times you've tried to forget them. Because if Part 26 speaks of the mind's obsession with what is repeated, then Part 27, the Zeigarnik effect, speaks of the mind's obsession with what is incomplete, an unfinished task, a story without an ending, a conversation that ended halfway, an emotion interrupted, a relationship that never truly closed, an apology that was never spoken, a goodbye that was never said, a dream you once began but never finished. And all these things, however small, become tiny pins, threads, micro scratches, clinging to consciousness like soft shadows that refuse to depart. That is the Zeigarnik effect, the mind's tendency to remember unfinished tasks more vividly than finished ones. This is not a weakness of the human mind. It is an evolutionary design. In the ancient world, humans did not survive by remembering what they had completed, but by remembering what they had not yet done, not yet built shelter, not yet found enough food, not yet escaped danger fully. The unfinished was the signal of survival. And that ancient mechanism, though the world has changed, still sits intact within the modern brain. That is why things left incomplete haunt us, not because they are important, but because the brain refuses to forget them. Yet in our modern lives, where we face countless responsibilities, emotional burdens, and unspoken thoughts, the Zeigarnik effect becomes not just a survival instinct, but a subtle, persistent, low-frequency form of mental tension. Humans can easily ignore what is finished, yet become stuck in what remains undone, as if the mind keeps a door perpetually open to whisper, "You still haven't completed this." In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche wrote, "Unfulfilled wishes are the ghosts of the mind, and it is difficult to find a line that fits the Zeigarnik effect more precisely. Unfinished things become ghosts, not frightening, but ever present, standing silently in the corner each time you try to sleep. An email unanswered, a conflict unresolved, a dream you began but abandoned midway, a chapter you never returned to, a promise you made to yourself and forgot. All of them become a kind of background noise you cannot fully mute. The strange part is, even when you are not consciously thinking about them, they still sit there, quietly consuming mental energy, like open windows on a computer, slowing everything down even when unused. This is why people often feel exhausted, not because of what they do, but because of what they avoid. The tasks they procrastinate, the decisions they fear to make, the conversations they dread, the emotions they suppress, the things they know they should do but cannot bring themselves to begin. In relationships, the Zeigarnik effect becomes a wound. A love without closure haunts for years. A goodbye never spoken keeps the heart circling the same shoreline like a boat stuck mid-current. Someone once close to you who vanished without explanation leaves the mind writing hundreds of imagined stories to fill the gap. Humans are not haunted by loss. They are haunted by lack of closure. Without closure, the past cannot rest and the present cannot breathe. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And the Zeigarnik effect is one of the strongest unconscious forces, directing our habits, anxieties, and choices without us ever realizing it. Things left unfinished don't sit on our to-do list. They settle deep in the psyche, clinging to emotion like a faint note that never fully fades. Yet the beauty of this part lies not merely in understanding the mechanism, but in realizing this. Some things unfinished do not need to be finished. Some stories do not need an ending. Some apologies you do not need to receive. Some people who left do not owe you explanations. Some dreams can be allowed to rest quietly in memory without being revived. Some things, if forced to completion, would only hurt you more. Liberation sometimes comes not from finishing, but from gently setting something down and whispering to yourself, "I no longer need to carry this." The Zeigarnik effect teaches us that the mind hates incompletion, but life teaches us that some incomplete things are meant to remain that way, like a painting that does not need its final stroke, a poem that does not need its last line, a chapter that does not need to be continued. What we truly need to complete is not everything, but our own release. From Part 26, where repetition makes the untrue feel true, to Part 27, where unfinished things become the mind's softest ghosts. Tonight's journey is guiding you into the deeper drawers of consciousness, where the smallest details hold the heaviest emotional weight. And as your breath grows slower, as your mind softens like flowing water, as your heart loosens its grip on the unfinished burdens you've carried for years, you will feel yourself approaching Part 28, where humans resist most strongly when forbidden, and where we explore the paradox of psychological freedom. But that is the next story. For now, let every unfinished thing inside you be gently placed down, light as an autumn leaf, falling at the exact moment it is ready. And as the remnants of Part 27 drift softly within you like the final ripples left on the surface of a lake long after a stone has sunk to the bottom, where we just walked through the Zeigarnik effect, the mind's delicate obsession with unfinished things, unclosed doors, stories left open, you may feel tonight's journey gently carrying you toward another terrain of psychology, where the mind is no longer held by what remains incomplete, but pulled toward what it is forbidden to touch. If Part 27 showed us that the mind hates lack, then Part 28, Reverse Psychology and Reactance, reveals that the heart hates being deprived, and it is strangely illuminating to realize that in the depths of human psychology, we do not react most intensely to desire, but to restriction. It is not what we truly want that wounds us the most, but what we are told we cannot want. Reactance is the peculiar mechanism that makes people want to try precisely what they are forbidden to do. The more something is blocked, the more they want to push through. The more someone says you can't, the more the mind whispers, I will. This is not defiance of personality. This is the mind's instinctive defense of its own freedom. When a choice is taken away, the mind loses not only that option, but its sense of autonomy. And in that moment, the inner region of psychological resistance ignites like a quiet flame in the dark, urging us to reclaim what was removed. It doesn't matter whether the thing is large or small. The moment it is labeled off limits, emotion awakens. In Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche wrote, "Forbidden things become greatly desired, and that line, when placed into the still air of night, echoes like a fundamental truth of human nature. We desire not only because we want, but because we are forbidden to want. A closed door makes us imagine mysteries behind it. A denial makes us believe something is worth striving for. A hidden thing convinces us it is important. The mind reads restriction as value, even when there is no rational reason. Reactance does not analyze, it reacts. This is why children immediately want to do what their parents forbid. Why adults become curious about things labeled, not for you. Why a simple, I don't think you should do that, sometimes makes the other person want to do it instantly. And why, in love, silence, withdrawal, or distance can provoke pursuit. Not because affection has grown, but because the sense of freedom has shrunk. But to understand reactance, we must return to a fundamental truth. Humans are born wanting to govern their own lives. No one wants to be controlled. No one wants to be bound. No one wants to be stripped of their choices. Therefore, when even a small option is removed, psychological resistance emerges to guard the boundary of the self. Reactance is the mind's shield against manipulation. It is the instinctive protection of freedom. But like every survival mechanism, When activated in the wrong context, it becomes a paradox. There are things we do not desire until they are forbidden. Doors we never intended to open until someone locked them. People we never meant to chase until they walked away. And in those moments, what we pursue is not truly the object, but the freedom that was challenged. In human relationships, this mechanism creates sorrowful loops. When someone says, "Don't contact me anymore," the mind does not hear the request. It hears the restriction. When someone says, "Don't worry about it," the body does not relax. It tightens, sensing that a choice has been taken. When someone goes silent precisely when you need an answer, you do not only feel hurt, you feel denied the right to participate in the truth. And so reactance produces chaos. We want what we do not truly want. We chase what we do not truly need. We ache over what was never truly right for us. All because the mind hates confinement. Yet within the softest corner of this mechanism lies a quiet truth. Reactance is proof that humans are built for freedom. If freedom did not matter, reactance would not exist. If the self had no worth, it would not defend itself so fiercely. If we were not born to choose our own path, we would not resist when choice is taken. This tug of war between restriction and the desire to reclaim freedom reminds us that freedom is not merely a philosophical concept, it is a biological reflex. But like all instincts, reactance requires awareness. Not everything forbidden is worth pursuing. Not every locked door is meant to be opened. Not every person who walks away should be followed. Not every difficult thing is meant for us. Wisdom is learning to distinguish between desire, born from the heart, and desire born from reactance. A genuine desire brings peace. A reactive desire brings turmoil. A genuine desire makes us lighter. A reactive desire weighs us down. In Letters to a Young Poet, Rilke wrote, "Let life happen to you. Believe me, life is right in any case, and when that line is placed gently within the haze of Part 28, we begin to understand that not everything must be resisted. Not every restriction is a challenge. Not every closed gate is meant for us. Sometimes the greatest freedom comes not from breaking barriers, but from realizing that the barrier was never on our path to begin with." From Part 27, where the mind is haunted by what is unfinished, to Part 28, where the mind is provoked by what is forbidden, tonight's journey is guiding you through the subtlest layers of psychological reflex. Not to make you blame yourself for having reacted too strongly in the past, but to remind you, you reacted because you are human. And as your breath continues to soften, as this slow, warm voice merges with the rhythm of your heartbeat like a stream of gentle water in the night, you will feel yourself ready to step into Part 29, where the philosophical illusion of Plato's cave reveals how human perception is forever shaped by the shadows it mistakes for truth. But that is the story of the next moment. For now, let your freedom settle like a quiet leaf drifting into the dark, not struggling, not resisting, simply returning to where it has always belonged. And as the lingering resonance of Part 28 still drifts through your mind, like the final warmth left on a pillow where we walked through the strange reflex of psychological reactance, that instinctual force that makes people chase what they are forbidden and fight for choices the moment they are taken away. You may feel tonight's journey gently pulling you into an even deeper dimension of reflection, where the question is no longer about what we are denied or what we chase, but something far more fundamental, whether what we see is even real. For if reactance reveals that humans fiercely protect their freedom, then Plato's cave reveals something even more unsettling, that even when we are free, We may spend an entire lifetime mistaking shadows for truth without ever knowing we are in a cave. Plato described this in the Republic through an image both simple and haunting. Humans chained inside a cave, facing a wall, watching shadows cast by objects passing in front of a fire behind them. They believe those shadows are the world. They think those shapes are reality. And so they live their whole lives inside that belief. A belief not born from choice, but from the absence of knowing anything else. Plato wrote, "The prisoners would deem reality to be nothing else than the shadows of the artificial objects, and when we sit with that line, we begin to sense a quiet truth. People are not deceived by the world. People are deceived by the limits of their own perception. What makes the cave a prison is not the chains or the wall, but familiarity. Because just like the illusory truth effect in part 26, whatever we see repeatedly begins to feel true. And like the Zeigarnik effect in part 27, whatever remains unfinished in perception continues to haunt us. In Plato's cave, these two forces intertwine. The shadow is repeated until it feels real. And because the person has never stepped outside, the illusion never ends. The shadow becomes the world. The real world becomes unimaginable. Like someone who has lived in darkness so long that light itself becomes unrecognizable. But Plato's cave is not just a philosophical story about perception. It is the story of real human life, because we too carry our own shadows. Shadows we mistake for truth, but are only reflections of the past, of fear, of expectation, of old wounds, of how we were raised, of what we survived. We think we are not good enough because the shadow of a sentence spoken at age 12 still flickers on the wall. We think the world is dangerous because the shadow of a painful experience still lingers in the mind. We think we are unworthy of love because the shadow of someone who left still casts its outline over our heart. We see ourselves through the shadows of an unhealed past, and then we call that shadow truth. Nietzsche once said in Twilight of the Idols, "There are no facts, only interpretations." And when that line is placed inside the dim light of Plato's cave, it becomes painfully precise. We do not live with truth, we live with our interpretation of it. And interpretation is rarely perfect. In human relationships, we do not see people as they are. We see them as we interpret them to be. Someone's silence seems like coldness. Someone's departure seems like betrayal. Someone's change seems like withdrawal. But sometimes the truth is outside the cave entirely. Their silence is pain. Their departure is fear. Their change is a search for themselves. But because we only see shadows, we misread what is real. And from these misreadings, people wound each other. Cognitive illusions do not only distort our world, they distort our sense of self. We think we are fragile, but that is only the shadow of an old fear. We think we are insufficient, but that is only the shadow of someone's criticism long past. We think we are invisible, but that is only the shadow of an emotional void that was never filled. And so we live inside our own internal cave, confusing shadows with reality, illusions with truth, wounds with identity. Yet the most beautiful part of Plato's story is not the shadows on the wall, but the moment someone finds the exit, the moment they turn their head, the moment they see the fire behind them, the moment they walk toward the light, and in that instant, their entire world begins to change. But Plato also wrote that the light will hurt them, make them turn back, make them crave the comforting darkness they once knew. Because truth always arrives blindingly after a lifetime in shadows. Truth does not enter like a gentle friend. It breaks through like a bright beam shattering illusion. And humans, by instinct, resist it. But if they stay just a little longer, if they allow their eyes to adjust, they begin to see colors, textures, depth, beauty, the unfiltered reality that shadows could never imitate. And then, they no longer wish to return to the cave. Yet the tragedy is this: when they return to help the others, those still inside do not believe them. They think the one who escaped is delusional. They trust the shadows more than the truth. This happens every day. Someone hurt too long believes happiness is an illusion. Someone betrayed too many times believes love is a mirage. Someone who lived in fear too long believes safety cannot be real. The one who steps into the light becomes the dreamer, while those who remain in darkness are seen as realists. But the truth is, sometimes the ones who fear the outside world are the ones living in a dream. From part 28, where freedom triggers the mind's reflex to fight restriction, to part 29, where we learn the mind can be imprisoned by its own illusions. Tonight's journey is touching the deepest layers of selfhood. Not to show you that the world is frightening, but to show you that truth is not in the shadows, but in the light behind them, and that light, like anything that truly belongs to you, is never lost. It only waits for you to turn around, and as your breath settles, soft as an echo dissolving into the night, you may sense that the journey is approaching its final threshold. Part 30, where we confront the ultimate mystery of consciousness. Why a physical brain creates a subjective experience. Why there is a self. Why there is awareness. But that is the story of the next moment. For now, let your mind release the shadows that have clung to it for far too long and open like the very first doorway toward the light. And as the quiet resonance of part 29 still drifts through your mind like the final trace of light lingering at the mouth of Plato's cave, where we stepped beyond the illusions of perception and the shadows that humans so often mistake for truth, you may sense tonight's journey gently guiding you toward the deepest, most ancient, most silent question in philosophy. The question beneath every other question, the question no explanation, no theory, no scientific model has ever fully grasped. Why does a physical brain, a structure made of electricity, chemistry, and living tissue, give rise to subjective experience? Why do neural interactions produce what we call consciousness? Why does the phenomenon of knowing that we know exist at all? Why are there sensations, thoughts, sorrows, joys, silences, dreams, and a sense of I? This is what David Chalmers called the hard problem of consciousness, the hardest problem of the mind. How does the brain produce subjective experience? He asked, not as a scientist who believes matter alone is sufficient, but as someone standing at the threshold between what can be measured and what can only be felt. For it is strange. We can describe electrical signaling across synapses. We can explain dopamine or serotonin. We can map which brain regions activate when someone fears, loves, or dreams. But we cannot explain why these processes are felt from the inside. Why is there subjectivity? Why is there not just physical activity, but meaning, experience, quality? Thomas Nagel once asked, "What is it like to be a bat?" A question that appears simple yet opens an abyss. We can analyze a bat's brain, but we can never know what flying in darkness feels like from the inside. We can look at the MRI scan of a person in pain, but we can never touch the pain they experience. We can measure the heartbeat of someone in love, but we cannot see the light that changes inside them. This reveals a gap between the physical and the subjective, a gap impossibly thin, yet infinitely wide. And within that gap, the hard problem is born. Throughout history, humanity has tried to explain consciousness in countless ways. Plato believed consciousness belonged to the soul seeking truths beyond the physical world. Descartes declared, "Cogito, ergo sum, I think, therefore I am," placing conscious experience as the foundation of existence itself. Spinoza saw consciousness as one attribute of the same substance that expresses itself as matter, two faces of the same coin. Kant insisted that we never perceive the thing in itself, but only phenomena, what consciousness constructs from sensation. And in the modern age, quantum physics only deepens the mystery. Does the observer influence reality? Is consciousness fundamental to the universe, or merely a byproduct of matter? None of these theories make the hard problem easier. They only make it deeper, as though each time we reach for the edge of truth, it retreats into a darker layer, like shadows shrinking away from the movement of a torch. But the beauty of the hard problem is not in its difficulty. Its beauty lies in how it humbles us. It reminds us that with all our technology, intellect, science, and knowledge, there remains a part of ourselves we cannot unravel. A part that belongs to no laboratory, no formula, no nerve fiber. A part that can only be sensed, not proven. A part that rises only in silence, in stillness, in the quiet moment when you realize something deeper than you is looking back at you. A knowing that knows itself. An inner light untouched by the physical world. William James once said, "Consciousness is not a thing, but a process." Yet even he, the father of modern psychology, could not say where that process begins. Consciousness flows through us like a river, though no one knows where the spring lies. Many philosophers have said that the hard problem is not a scientific puzzle, but an experiential one, because consciousness is not something we analyze, it is something we are. And that is perhaps why this question has accompanied humanity for thousands of years, because consciousness is not a riddle to be solved, but an invitation to turn inward. The hard problem opens the door to humility. We do not know what we are. It opens the door to wonder. We do not know why there is a self. And it opens the door to peace. In not knowing, we are free. Free from needing answers. Free to simply experience. Free to exist. In Being and Nothingness, Sartre wrote, "Consciousness is a being, the nature of which is to be conscious of the nothingness of its being." And as that line sinks into the darkness of night, we understand that consciousness is not an answer, but a question, the eternal question the human carries in every breath. From part 29, where we stepped away from the shadows cast upon the walls of perception, to part 30, where we reach the innermost chamber of awareness itself. This journey does not bring you to a conclusion, but to stillness. Because perhaps the most healing truth is this: you do not need to solve everything to feel at peace. You only need to sense the miracle of being alive, of breathing, of being conscious, even if you do not know why consciousness exists. When you close your eyes now, you do not understand how the brain produces images, sounds, memories, dreams, but you experience them. That experience, quiet, soft, wordless, is the gift the hard problem offers you. The greatest mystery of humanity lies in every breath you take, and you do not need to understand it to fall asleep. You only need to let that awareness carry you gently, deeply, peacefully, like a mild night wind closing the final chapter of a long journey. A journey of 30 parts, of 30 layers of psychology and philosophy, guiding you back to the simplest truth. You are here. You are aware. And life is whispering through you. Let that mystery hold you and lull you softly into sleep.